What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the KCM Season 2, Week 4. This is take number, what, 3, 4 now? We're having some OBS issues. And so I really do, again, thank all of you who are watching live on SCTVEN for bearing with us. Updated my drivers today, and it seems to be causing some problems, but looks like we've got things rolling now. And so we're going to be bringing you this first game, Bisu versus Rush, and taking a look at the lineup. We've got a interesting lineup here, and most importantly, Zerg is back.
Yeah, and 3 is the magic number saying, so hopefully that's one of the reasons why we've got it all figured out now. And, you know, how the trinity of things have been realized. But yeah, Queen, Action, Saxry, no Soul Key, no Hero, so this is going to be an interesting week of KCM. And the other 2 respective squads also a little bit light in some of their heavy hitters. We got Bisu and Rush to maybe do some heavy lifting here for Terran and Protoss respectively, but they're going out first against one another. So at least one of them going to be eliminated here and make it maybe a little bit harder for the rest of their squad to go the distance. We'll have to wait and see how things transpire. There's also Royal and Stork. Sometimes they play out of their minds and sometimes they don't. A little bit more hit and miss. YC can punch above his weight occasionally, but not so often. We'll have to see how this all transpires, saying. But we got a pylon against the cliff, so we're still going to be throwing a gateway down here on the low ground to try and compensate for the slightly extra rush distance and an SCV on the ramp to delay this gas steal attempt from Bisu.
This is very Speed-esque. Just getting up here with the SCV, wasting a little bit of mining time. Oh, he lets it slide forward just slightly. But looks like getting the gas down. I believe he canceled an SCV to make that happen. Asking for a pause here.
Yeah, a little bit of technical difficulties potentially from Rush. It's not like he just wants to make it look like that's the reason why he let the probe in and he's a bit embarrassed. There's probably some serious issue going on, like his sound isn't working as intended or some kind of issue with his wireless mouse or something. Who knows? Just bear with us a minute here while that gets resolved. But yeah, I mean, this block on the ramp of the SCV, it's not as common as you guys would think, but it does help Terran's guarantee going for a gas early on and getting a factory out on time. Here we go, live again. It was 11 gas from Rush, so he would potentially have liked to delay that even more to maybe go for a 12 gas and get a more normal timing on his factory. But he's more than happy to take it at 11, because if you do take it at something like 10, you're just too far behind economically to make that work unless you're going for some sort of proxy factory cheese.
Look at that. He's only mining with one SCV on gas. So I'm not sure exactly what we're seeing here out of Rush.
He put 2 on now. He's putting more on now. It's just he's optimizing a little bit to take, because he took it extra early. He's now going to be mining it with 3. He just slightly optimized his build.
Let's see what kind of timing he gets on this factory. Already passed that 2-minute 30 mark, and you're at 2:36, gonna start that factory, so being slowed down a bit by the initial probe of Bisu, even if it wasn't directly, indirectly slowing down this build of Rush. And he's gonna use that gateway to start pumping out some zealots, I believe. No, he hasn't made a single zealot. Ooh, wow. Citadel immediately trying to block SCV on the ramp. Can he actually get it before it scouts the Citadel? That would be really important. Can he stop it? Gonna go right through the middle of the line. Cancel here from Bisu.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of has to cancel there. You can't just go straight up DTs regardless of being scouted. It just would be shut down too easily here by Rush. He was hoping to get the chase micro on that SCV to finish it off with a few particle beam connections. Not able to do so. Just going to be throwing down the Nexus instead. This is still a relatively normal Nexus timing. It's a little bit on the greedy side. Just making 1 Dragoon straight into Nexus. That was about 20 supply. More traditional timing would be somewhere around 23. You can only really go for this Nexus timing if you skip making range right away, and he did. He does manage to get the SCV. That's a little bit of conversation. Tries to check the front with the Dragoon. Needs to figure out whether or not he's building a CC fast behind this or not, and what timing it is, because how much HP it's got will tell you when that was actually produced. And beautiful play here from Rush. Pushes the Dragoon back just barely enough so that the Vulture can slip out onto the map. That's a crucial move that's become very meta these days.
That Vulture Vulture is going to be a bit of a thorn in the side here for Bisu. You won't need too many pylons to complete this wall, since he's got the gateway out in front. That can create a pretty easy choke to just hold with a single Dragoon. Could even come up and just place an extra pylon to block everything out in case of emergency. Ooh, starport behind this. Rush. I was wondering why the Terran squad decided to send out Rush so early. Here on Eclipse, it feels like you're sending out kind of a sacrificial lamb, right? But maybe Rush has a sweet build to kind of surprise Bisu with and get a quick win on Eclipse.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if they take out Bisu early on, Stork and YSC will have a really hard time dealing with the rest of the distance that they've got to traverse for this event. So would be a great win for Terran to pick up a big tempo lead early on. And with Royal waiting in the wings, you definitely have a bit more longevity in your own squad as Terran. So it won't matter too much if Rush gets eliminated by a Zerg in the next game or what have you. There's still some chance here for the Terran squad. And beautiful mine lane. He's going to double mine up on the ramp here as well. Potentially being able to get some big connections on those Dragoons when they do come to try and mine sweep for that. Bisu will have to get a bit lucky in terms of his star sense and figure out exactly what is coming out from Rush, because there's no real way of knowing. Like, this could be mine into triple expansion for all he knows, so there's no real guarantee that Rush is going for this dropship play. He just has to kind of sniff it out at around about that 620, 630 mark and have some Dragoons already positioned at his main and natural to thwart that.
Well, he's gone for triple gateway observer. Best possible scenario in terms of build order choice to deal with something like this. The observer is going to be coming out right now and heading across the map. Rush is going to intentionally go around the outside to make sure he avoids that and comes in from an angle where Bisu's not going to be expecting. In fact, there might be a bit of dark area in Bisu's base, his main, at the top left-hand corner where Rush can fully unload, and that really gives this attack a little bit more punch. Bisu already in position with Dragoons at each base. He's ready for this, and it is, in fact, in vision, this drop. He's just going to come right in here. First probe goes down, 2, 3 probes already, 4 probes, 5 probes. 6 probes. Can he get a little more? 6 probes only. Still some pretty decent damage for this first drop.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It kind of sort of pays for itself. It's not the kind of damage he was looking for, but it means that he's not just falling flat on his face with this build. He will have a playable game state to work with. He sees that it's a pretty conservative expansion timing here from Bisu. I mean, the 7-minute 20 Nexus is very, very slow relative to what you can get away with as Protoss. As long as you can avoid some kind of bulldog play, it won't matter too much losing those initial 4 vultures. Like, say if BC was trying to kill Rush here on a 2-base timing and getting early zealot speed and just bombing zealots on top of tanks with shuttles and what have you, then that'd be a bit of a problem losing those vultures. So it's not the end of the world here for Rush, but he honestly needs to maybe dig deep and try and play for the mid to late game rather than any kind of timings, because I don't think he's going to be able to do much besides additional drop harass.
I spent a lot of time making vultures and doesn't have a very good tank count just yet, but he's going to continue along with this drop harass. If he continues to get damage over and over again, then this can really work out well for him. Just 2 more Dragoons already in position. This is very good play from Bisu. Going to start to target down probes as he can. The mine. All right, he went for it. He tried for it, but he's going to send the drop back through the Dragoon, so that'll actually die. Oh my god, there's a big hit. Very big hit on those probes at the bottom part of those mineral patches. I'm not sure exactly how many kills that was, but it looked like a lot.
Just 1 or 2, actually. I think too many went down, but it's still a big deal because it's paying for the investment at least, so the game can go on for Rush without too much pressure on him to make something happen. And he has to kind of dig deep and sit back right now. There's just not going to be enough unit production to challenge Bisu out on the map. There's going to be Reavers soon to slow down Terran advancements. There's going to be a lot of Dragoons available to Bisu as well. So it makes sense just to kind of do a follow-up, drop harass, and kind of sit back and mat her up. He has got 4 factories pretty early on, so he could potentially do some kind of timing, but I would imagine that he's just doing this so that he can secure his 3rd base relatively early on in this game. Probably around the 10-11 minute mark, he's going to think about starting to push out towards his 3rd base, maybe take that. I just don't think he can get a push timing going here. Imagine, yeah, there's the command center now, very on curve with what I was expecting.
It's a pretty hard map to take a 3rd base on. There's so much space between your natural and your 3rd. Eclipse really is a pain in the butt to play TVP. And this is some great damage. I don't think that it's enough to really give him a good spot here. He's still going to have a very hard time taking this 3rd base and holding that while dealing with all of this drop harass and stuff. It's going to be tough. First couple of Reavers are here in the front. They're looking for this first push out to see if they can get any damage. Bisu, can he get some Reaver shots? All right, just a couple of Reaver hits. He's going to get both of the Goliaths. That's not bad.
I think did he lose one of the Reavers though? That's also a pretty big pickup from Rush. There's only one more Reaver now to slow down this potential expansion attempt here, and that could be a big deal for Rush. He's going to be powering up into 6 factories, meanwhile waiting for that CC to finish up and start floating that over. Bisu will also be powering off 3 bases, knowing that Terran will want to be expanding soon, and one of the best ways of playing on Eclipse is, like Artosis would say, is kind of sit in an arc and wait for the Terran to come out and then squash them like a bug. But maybe Rush has built up a strong enough force to avoid that, and should be able to mitigate the potential from Bisu to just bowl him over, although Bisu will still attempt to do so. He's loading up a shuttle with some Zealots, and he will start to sniff this out with his Observer, see exactly how he's expanding and how many forces he's committing to where. Like, he sees the 3 tanks making its way onto the high ground of the 3rd. Now we can start to calculate, okay, do I have enough to actually break that open, or do I need to take my 4th? And it seems like the answer is no, I don't have enough to break that. I'm going to take my 4th.
We managed to kill a couple of Goliaths, so it becomes more tempting to try dives with those shuttles, but seems like Rush has continued to add more of those on. These sneaky mines in behind the army are pretty cute, but Bisu is keeping vigilant with his observers and moving his army carefully. Not going to take any unnecessary damage from mines in the middle of the map. Yeah, good move from Rush. Could have gotten a lot of damage, but in the end, Bisu maneuvers that, and he's going to take this 4th base while keeping his army powerful here in the center.
Yeah, it's very important in this matchup, especially to keep an eye on where your opponent's forces are and how much they have consolidated into each position. It's very common for the Terran player just to be scanning all over the map, trying to find where the Protoss player's army is. Look at this fluidity from Rush. He knows this drop is coming and has his army in position to squash it. As soon as it starts to unload, there could be some good mine connection hits on his own units, but he's not finding it, is Bisu. He tries to get into the deep top right pocket of the base, and with the shuttle of just one hit from dying, manages to get in there at least to cause some frustration, but it's really not amounted to much. This is really easily handled by Rush, and that will propel him quite heavily forward in this game. This is now a very Terran-sided game state to work with.
That first budget recall making its way into the natural, completely shut down. Feels like Rush completely, he just totally read Bisu, his intentions in this game. Knowing exactly what he was up to, and now with a lead in supply. The only good thing about that drop was the mine connection on some of those vultures, so he may be lacking a little bit in overall vulture number, but you can see he's pushing forward with a lot of strength here. Oh, great storm on the frontal vultures, and now getting right on top of this army. Oh my goodness, this is... Oh, wow. All right, well, Rush just kind of threw that attack.
Yeah, I mean, this is the big problem with Terran, is you sometimes just get a little bit too antsy and pull the trigger, and you just siege up to, like, all your army is clumped, and suddenly you just give the game back into the hands of the Protoss. And unfortunately, he did lose just a little bit too much of the Sonic Storm splash damage potential. He's still going to try and go the distance and put some pressure onto Bisu, but this attack has lost a lot of steam now. He won't really be able to commit to a full-on engagement with the Protoss anymore. He's kind of spread a little bit too thin to continue that effort effort, he might be thinking about it, but I'm not sure if it'd be such a wise decision. It seems like he is thinking better of it and pulling his army back now to wait to reconsolidate his forces, and that's definitely a wise move. It's better just to scout out on the map with some vulture raiding parties, lay down some mines, and kind of just wait for a few more rounds of tanks to come out again before you can go for another timing attack.
Yeah, these vulture raiding parties are so important. Going out on the map, laying down mines, drawing the army in different to different locations, and forcing reactions from the Protoss player. He just had that great trade with the shuttles and thought he could push directly across the map, but kind of undermined his own efforts by not going for one of these vulture raiding parties initially before that full-on attack comes. And so Bisu's just sitting there waiting in the middle of the map for him and gets a bunch of great storms on all of that army. Now Rush is kind of forced into an awkward position where he can't quite attack just yet, but he can't really take this fourth either. He's like trying to decide what to do here. Looks like he will end up moving towards that fourth base. He's spreading out even further as he reaches close to this max out supply. He will be able to take this and hold all four of these locations, but Bisu, he's kind of escaped from a bit of a difficult spot, man. He's going to be counting his lucky stars for that mistake from Rush. That was looking like a scary army.
Yeah, no, if he just scanned and like appropriately knew the when to start spreading his tanks and seizing them up at a more appropriate location and timing, he would have got a much better trade from Bisu. But now he's looking like he's, you know, kind of even on the scaling. He has finally started to approach his max state though, so now it's going to be harder and harder for Bisu to attack into this isolated location. If most of the Terran forces are leveraged here, it's going to be very difficult for Bisu to make it work. He's going to try and attempt to do so anyway. There's a lot of Sonic Storm to maybe work with and blanket this Terran army. There's a lot of siege tanks that are stacked up on the right-hand side. If you can get a little bit deeper, you might better start to punish those clumped up tanks. So far, pretty mediocre storms. That's a pretty good one. Needs just one more good storm on that clump of tanks, but he's starting to run a little bit dry on his zealots. And meanwhile, Rush pushing in with more reinforcements as well to try and hold the line.
This is a lot of Terran metal getting set up here. There's no CC at this location just yet. Rush able to spread his tanks out pretty darn well and getting some turrets online in addition. This is a strong enough position to where Bisu just going to back away. Hasn't been able to secure the other base down in bottom right just yet, but I think that'll be where he's angling next. It will be very difficult to push through this Terran mech over in top left. This is an interesting game state. We haven't seen a game on Eclipse like this for a while, where the Terran's actually able to sit back and control their quarter of them or their half of the map. It's usually, you know, these timing pushes and then Protoss players doing a counter attack and just kind of winning, but I'm not sure who's going to take this game now. Rush is in an okay position sitting on 4 bases. He could possibly secure the top left as well, get that double gas online, and take this to a very long game.
I think Bisu's aware of that. We might be seeing a very big carrier transition or something take place in the next couple of minutes. I think he knows that the longer this goes on, the worse it's going to be for him, and this position will become more and more untenable. As long as the Terran responds correctly and keeps scanning for where the Protoss army is and, you know, reshuffles his defenders appropriately, much like like, it's not going to be much hope for Bisu to trade effectively. We've got the core now spinning for weapons upgrades and have got a Stargate. Doesn't necessarily mean he is going for carriers. That could also be a mind game for where the Terran scans and thinks, oh, suddenly this guy is going to go carriers. Definitely could also be a mind game. We'll have to wait and see if he actually wants to commit into that. He's got another massive vulture raiding party down here on the bottom right. That means there's no vultures up here in the top left, though. Bisu could pull the trigger and attack right now. This is mostly just tank Goliath. If there's a lot of zealots in these shuttles, then he could potentially just bowl over Rush. Rush is desperately scrambling those vultures to get back to defend, and Bisu thinks better of engaging there, but there was a small timing window where those vultures out of position. Wouldn't be able to necessarily defend that. So now Rush going to be going back to his original directive of shutting down this expansion attempt in the bottom right.
It looks like he will be able to shut that down. Not much that Bisu can do about it right now. We will be having that carrier transition, and Rush is in a bit of a awkward spot spot where he's going to have to attack soon so that he can actually free up some supply to start making Goliaths. You don't want to be sitting here not having any Goliaths when the carrier transition begins. In fact, Bisu needs that to happen too. He's sitting at 195 supply. He'll be remaxing on carriers most likely. But he needs to bleed off some army first.
He's also even on upgrades with Rush right now, so this may help Bisu to trade. It's 2-2 versus 2-2. The longer this goes on, it's more favorable for the Terran, but usually it's rare for the Protoss player to stay on curve with the upgrades of the Terran. So this is actually a pretty big boon there for Bisu. He's even throwing down a gateway here in the top left to maybe make some high Templars up there and slow down any attempts from Rush to squash that. It's a little bit greedy from Bisu to try and get that base up and operational on the top left. That will be the natural expansion path of Rush, given a more normal game state. There's going to be that massive carrier transition coming online soon. There's like a 2-minute window for Rush to make a massive push happen to try and punish this, but if he doesn't manage to seize the opportunity and accomplish that, certainly Bisu can turn this game on its head and really start to put the pressure on Rush, who's going to have a hard time dealing with both carriers running around the map and also stopping this army from counter-attacking him and circumnavigating direct engagements and squashing his expansions.
Time to engage. Rush is pushing through the middle. This is a very tight area. Some storms are going to be deadly. Big storms on this front line of tanks, most of them unsieged as they continue to push forward. Many of them battered and bruised, but very few of them actually went down in that fight. Picking up those Templar again, ready to drop at a moment's notice to try and continue to deal that damage, slow down this push. Rush is scanning, seeing the carriers are just now starting to pop out. It's the perfect time to engage here in the natural. So he's taking this fight. Storms on the high ground, most likely here. Going to be sprayed down on these tanks as they start to push forward. Wasn't able to get a storm there, but as he pushes up into the main, you're damn right there's going to be storms hitting this ramp and just blocking everything from coming up here.
Yeah, good pre-splaying on the tanks from Rush to try and circumnavigate the majority of that potential. The interceptors are just now starting to be manufactured by these carriers and will start to try and hold their line. This is like the defense of Aya right now. But Rush is already knocking on the Protoss homeworld, trying to crush him right now while he still can before these carriers get off the ground. Nice bomb attempt there from Bisu, but only squashing about 4 or so tanks. And now behind this, Rush will be able to start to stream out more and more units to come and reinforce this, including Goliaths, to start battling with the carriers that will start to pull their interceptors given enough time. It seems like Bisu's on a really big clock right now, and Rush should be able to execute a kill order to knock Bisu out of this game before he can get off the ground.
Still making some Dragoons, but they're just completely sacrificial. Lot of shuttles here, but there's no other rally point for Bisu. It's just all the gateways over here in the main base, and then the carriers are coming out from the main as well. That's quite a few carriers now. And he's getting rid of the majority of these Goliaths. There's only 4 Goliaths left, so I think he actually clears the Goliath number and then should be able to kill the tanks thereafter. So Rush going to immediately start to pull back, leave a few sacrificial tanks here, and then group up with the advancing Goliaths that are coming right behind this attack. It's still looking pretty good here for Rush, but there's hope for Bisu as this carrier number grows.
Yeah, he's going to have to really rely on his carriers to do the heavy lifting here. D-Matrix came out onto this tank to try and squash the remaining Dragoons that trickled out of those gateways. Now it's just a few Zealots on the ground, and whatever residual units managed to pop out of the remainder of this production facility. He's got 9 or 10 or so gateways in the back of his base. Now 3-3 has been achieved from Rush, and carriers have lost a lot of their potency. Goliaths with fully upgraded will have a strong chance at just squashing carriers unless you've got a crazy number of them. There's only 5 right now, and he did lose the majority of his ability to produce them. He's got like only one Stargate, I think, producing carriers right now. So he's taking all of the wind out of the sails of Bisu, and he's going to go for another attempt here to get on top of the ramp. Bisu without much splash damage here. I hope he's shipping some units over from somewhere else where he's got a few High Templars in these shuttles to throw down some storms on these Goliaths. That would help out a lot in the value trades needed to make this work. Rush will have a hard time getting the majority of his forces to bear by bringing them up this tight little ramp here. Bisu's going to deploy his interceptors by targeting his own gateway so they can more quickly jump on top of and destroy these Goliaths with instant decent efficiency. He's going to first target a few of these tanks on the high ground. He's got a few High Templars popping out now. Just a few more moments until they have enough to storm. He's got the amulet upgrade, which means they spawn with 62 energy instead of 50. So he's going to have to wait like 10-20 seconds until storm actually is available in each one of those Templars. He can really start to blanket the Terran metal as it's pushing up here.
Some of the Goliaths getting blanketed with that storm. Dragoons here just to keep these Templar alive. I'm surprised he didn't have more Templar earlier on. He's been banking a lot of gas and has a very low mineral count. There's another storm there at the front, storming these Hydras or storming these Goliaths like Hydras that start running forward, trying to snipe the Templar, and interceptor numbers getting lower and lower. DTs making their way to the front. Gonna buy a bit of time here as this stuff tries to push out. Force a whole bunch of scans to come, but this is just all Bisu trying to defend. He's just on the back foot for so long now, and eventually something will break, whereas Rush is just completely laser focused on gunning down these buildings and taking control of this main base.
This is why it's so common for Protoss players to set up additional rally points in other situations, because of scenarios just like this where the Terrans completely contained you and can isolate their win conditions more effectively. It seems like Bisu though has managed to break out in top left. He did lose the Nexus, but he's going to retake that. He's got a few Dark Templars critically up there. Now Rush is desperate to get some follow-up damage, playing whack-a-mole of these bases, but some beautiful storms from Bisu might be sandbagging that attempt. A lot of these tanks going down, but it's going to be just a matter of time before Rush manages to squash these bases in the bottom right. Bisu has to get over here with his carriers to fight this head on. And now he's got a pretty impressive fleet. He's got 9 carriers, saying this is a really potent army for Protoss to fight with good micros. It's going to be very difficult for Rush to squash that. And some more High Templars are popping out as well to try and fight back this. If he can just trade off enough of these Goliaths, beautiful storm as well, connecting onto those tanks and Goliaths in the back line. Just a little bit more splashed like that, and suddenly Bisu might run away with the game.
He's actually at a supply advantage right now, retaking this Nexus in top left. Rush has not been able to simultaneously push down Bisu and take more bases. Yeah, he is just sitting here on one base mining, barely able to make anything. It doesn't take much though, as Terran. Once you've got all your upgrades and everything built, continue to just produce Goliaths and tanks and vultures is pretty doable on 1 to 2 bases. Definitely you want to have 2 bases, but on 1 he's still going to be able to make a reasonable number of Goliaths to keep forcing these carriers back, force lots of interceptors to die, and there's not a lot of upgrades right now for Bisu. He's been denied the upgrades on the carriers. This 9 carrier force is not looking nearly as strong as it would be in a regular game. These are carriers with just +1 attack. The Cyber Core was killed, and so he wasn't able to ever get that +2, I don't think.
I think he got +2 with 1 shield upgrade. I'm fairly sure there's +2 upgrades. He seems to be killing them fast enough that it seems like it's +2 upgrades. I could be mistaken saying.
He might have remade that,
yeah. It's a really tactical play though from Bisu to secure this base in the top left and try and sandbag Rush from being able to take an additional 5th base for himself. Terran kind of need 2 bases to keep the engines churning at full efficiency. With just 1 base, they're kind of operating on fumes a little bit. He's fighting back against these carriers enough to maybe squash one of them. There's one of the carriers of these 9 are on red HP, and Rush making a good attempt of breaking into this expansion and denying some of the mining. Bisu's now only mining in this top left base as his most fresh base. He's still got the 3rd and the 4th churning away, but those will soon be mined out in just a few moments. So Bisu needs to reestablish these bases in the bottom right, as well as stopping Rush taking this base in the top left. As long as Bisu can maintain game state, he will eventually win, but Rush still has a gambit here to squash this base in the top left and take it for himself. He has got a CC that's been made to float over here. He's just been so slow in taking this out in the top left.
Those DTs doing their best, trying to keep these tanks at bay, but eventually Rush gets a scan up there. He'll be able to defend those tanks and get that Nexus taken down. He's made a lot of progress on either side of the map. It seems that Bisu might just barely be able to keep this Nexus alive, though. Big win there for Bisu as Rush built his CC over here at the top right, or at the top left, excuse me. He's planning to take that top left corner for himself. He has no plans to go ahead and take down bottom right, so he's going to focus all of his attention over here. The longer that Bisu mines this, the less resources Rush is going to have in the future if he manages to finally get the space.
Yeah, it's going to be a really big deal if Bisu not only loses this mining base, but concedes it to Rush. It's going to be a lot of hope here for the Terran. He's got like 5 minutes to make it happen before he's all dried up, Rush that is. And that's going to be his win condition now. But Bisu had enough oxygen and time to get his carriers up here in the top left to start, you know, utilizing that defensively and offensively on this axis. Actually a big win for Bisu. Yeah, +3. So he must have had +2 back then. So yeah, it seemed like they were killing the Goliaths fast enough that he did have +2 back then. So I did assume so. Now he's able to fight the Terran tooth and nail with pretty even upgrades, despite not so much on the armor side of things. The carriers have more than enough damage now to chew through those 3/3 upgrades on those Goliaths on the ground, relying primarily on splash damage to help thin out the herd of Goliaths for the carriers to then do the rest of the heavy lifting. He's going to keep deploying his own interceptors by targeting his own buildings so that he can pounce on top of these Goliaths in an instant and just pop them like zits. As you can see, they die very quickly when all of the interceptors are deployed. They go back into the carriers if the carriers stop moving, so you kind of have to move your carriers always, almost like they're mutalisks flying around without stopping. A DT attempt in the bottom right does get detected by Rush. Nice scan timing from him, denying too much counter damage. Rush able to stay on top of his task switching ability. There's another High Templar trying to make his way into that expansion. If he gets some beautiful storms with those tanks, this could be problematic. If he loses this mining base, this is a desperate base from Rush, and he's losing his tanks as well. There's just 2 tanks remaining on low HP, and the storm does come down on one of them. So now just hanging on by a thread in this bottom right on this base. He's knocked out a lot of the army of Rush. They're currently even on supplies, which favors the Protoss. The only thing going against Bisu is the lack of mobility of getting around the map with these carriers. Takes some time and gives Rush some potential to respond in kind.
Well, he's managed to get down here first. This is going to allow Rush to take top left, but we mentioned earlier, a lot of that money has been mined up by Bisu. Probe transfer getting caught in the middle of the map is quite big. Getting rid of a lot of these probes and limiting the income possibility for Bisu, but fighting down from these high grounds is awesome. Like, this is exactly what you want as Bisu. Fighting in these 2 bottom right-hand corner bases is amazing. Top left is a little bit easier for Rush to try and fight on kind of even ground, but down here, this is carrier territory. It's going to be incredibly hard to get up here, and he's just going to continuously lose Goliaths every time he tries to come up. Running forward with the Templar there, I'm not sure I agree with. I mean, getting some storms down, but waiting for them to come up the ramp is just... it's so much stronger. There's a great EMP just hitting every single carrier here. These are all very low now, and those +3 Goliaths could rip them apart if they get too close.
Yeah, take away about 40% of their effective HP by landing that EMP is a pretty big deal. Bisu though on the ground with some Dragoon Templar trying to fight this back. Some beautiful storms connected with those packs of Goliaths. He's thinning them out so expertly right now. Rush is in trouble. Bisu has enough a carrier fleet to just make this go the distance. He's really low on minerals though. It's his last mining base, his last bastion of hope that are able to keep churning away these interceptors. Rush was trying to go for a hold position, win condition, targeting down the interceptors rather than the carriers over a long period of time to sort of make it more and more challenging for Bisu to afford units on the ground as well as replenishing those interceptor count. Seems like Bisu's still coming out ahead of things. Rush did manage to secure this base in the top left, which is his last lifeline in this game. That 4th base is now mined out. That base in the top left is all that he has to work with, and 1 base versus 1 base in this scenario is definitely Protoss favored though. So all Bisu has to do is stop Rush from expanding again and put some pressure on his base in the top left. It's going to be really difficult for Rush to both put its own attacks on this bottom base at the bottom right pocket as well as defend this base in the top left. He kind of has to consolidate all of his eggs into one basket, and that's going to be easier for Bisu to make an omelet.
It's very hard on Eclipse here to catch these carriers as they move across the map. You can't just run down one of these lanes and try to catch them, and that's going to allow the carriers to get way up here and, in fact, get ahead of these Goliaths. Now on top of this base with a bunch of storms here, right in the middle of these Goliaths, gunning down plenty of interceptors, but the Goliath number is starting to run a little bit low. Can he keep this going? He's still got a lot of SCVs here. There's another nice storm. Diving on top of the carriers. Can he gun down some of these carriers? A lot of them were earlier EMP'd. Some of that shield has actually come back now, but there's just not enough. Not enough Goliaths here on the ground to actually snipe all this down. He goes for another EMP, getting rid of some more of that HP. Trying to dive on top of this. The carrier number is low, but there's still quite a few left. More Goliaths coming up here. There's so few remaining. 60 overall supply. More and more SCVs going down. 10 kill Archon here, getting just about every SCV at that base. There's the last Goliath goes down, and Rush has got to be out of this game.
Yeah, that just came down to the wire, saying there's 5 carriers remaining with no shields. If he had just, like, you know, 10 maybe more Goliaths to work with, he probably would have been able to squash them with that attempt to jump on top of them like that. As it stands, though, he's lost all of his mining. He's just in his death throes right now, contemplating the loss. He realizes there's almost nothing he can do to win this game state. He's kind of playing a little bit on autopilot, maybe just to drain some of the energy of Bisu and make it easier for either a Zerg or one of his teammates to take him out later on. Unfortunately for Rush, there's almost zero chance of winning this game right now.
Yeah, there's not really any way to come back. There's a very small number of Goliaths pushing down here towards bottom right, but they have no business being here with all the storms that are available right now. He could kill this just purely with energy and still be okay. Here comes those storms. Carrier's going to come up as well. The Archons here in the mix, actually helping out a bit. Kind of different from what we usually see in TVP, but there it is, guys. What an incredible first game. Holy. Gets the clapper. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he deserves the clapper, man. That was a crazy comeback.
This is what we expect from Rush versus Bisu, man. Absolute banger here to start us off.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with that initial performance from both players. It was very high-level gameplay. Bisu was, you know, basically on the back foot for a long time, and Rush managed to get all the way inside his main base and squash those Stargates from even producing any additional carriers to prevent the critical mass being achieved. But Bisu just, you know, stayed calm, stayed back, produced as many high Templars as possible with the amulet upgrade, making it easier and easier to keep the Terran at bay with that splash damage, as well as reproducing cybernetics cores and Stargates to keep those upgrades churning and eventually get back to a higher potency of carrier fleet to close out the game the longer it went on, and masterfully abused the geometry of the map, making it difficult for Rush to get on either side. To the top left and top right just takes a little bit of extra time for the Terran metal to go all the way around. So Bisu had an absolute masterclass in dismantling a Terran in an advantage position.
Hopping straight into game number 2, we've got Bisu versus Saxory. That's a feels bad man. Rush going down first. Sacrificial Lamb on Eclipse. That is just such a tough map for Terran players. Oh my goodness, Rush was so close to winning that game, pushing right in on top of all the production, but still, Bisu playing that game of keep away, abusing the map, and manages to take that one home. Now he's here against Saxory, who is a fun Zerg player to watch. One of my favorite Zergs. He's a bit of a hit and miss type of guy, though. He doesn't always perform at his best.
Right. Yeah, he's a macro-orientated player. If you do allow him to get into his late game unchallenged, he can be a bit of a monster. But if you do disrupt him early game with your superior understanding of timings and what have you, it seems like the players do get the better end of the stick against Saxory. He's one of these up-and-coming guys. He's been around for a long time, but players know his style in and out. And that's kind of the problem with Starcraft at the pro scene. It's like kind of like a trial by fire. You just have to get hammered thousands of games in a row by the pros until you become a sharpened blade, able to cut back. And Saxory's still on the other end of that spectrum, trying to use that honing to sharpen his abilities and actually start fighting back against some of these guys. He does put out some really good games when he's playing at his best. He's gone for a very fast hatchery first hit play against Bisu, trying to find a small economic lead. This was a gateway first from Bisu, but it is going to be a last scout, so not going to be able to potentially punish this so easily. All BC would have to do is kill a single drone to make this not worth it from Saxry, but if he's not able to get in there and do so, Saxry's going to be enjoying a small early game lead.
Zealot going to be rallied directly over to bottom right. It appears that Saxry will have a good Ling timing here. Going to have those coming out in just a moment. He's checking his own main with the drone, which is a little bit curious. Might have actually sent that. It's possible he actually sent that towards his third too, and the drone kind of bugged out going up towards the northern part of the base. That sometimes happens as well.
I reckon he's lost a game on the ladder to like a 9-9 gate or something.
You think
he
so?
never wants to have that happen to him again. Yeah, he's lost a weird game one time, and he never wants to, you know, let that transpire again. So he's playing really safe.
Well, the gateway would have been done. Both of them would have been done, and there would have been zealots already at that point. So I don't know if finding the gateway at that moment would have been helpful to him at all, but in the end, there is no 9-9 gate inside of his main. He has plenty of lings out here now with this very quick hatchery. Has a lot of extra larvae ready to go, so he will be able to shove everything back, and Bisu is just going to hang back, sit, get his Nexus going, probably throw down a Forge right away, try to keep himself safe, not allow these lings to get in and cause a ruckus in the main.
Yeah, and Bisu's an adept enough player to pass any skill checks that Saxry throws his way, especially with this slightly slower pull timing. You can see just how easily it is to navigate defending that wall despite having no finished forge or cannons on the way. Usually if it's like an overpull first, you can kind of get in there and force them to have a pro blocking on the ramp with a zealot and kind of force a few skill checks out of the Protoss to make them a little bit uncomfortable in navigating that perfectly. But as it stands, not really any counter potential for Saxry, but is going to be enjoying a small economic lead with that hatchery first being more or less unpunished in this game.
Hydralis Den here in the main, but Beasts are going to be blocked out by a couple of lings parked on the ramp. You see those two lings on the ramp? You might be a little suspicious here as Bisu to what's going on in this game. It is a vertical expansion. I wonder if he's interested in busting this. That's a gateway first, so there's a lot of zealots available. He hasn't killed any of these so far.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with this den play from Saxry. Like, surely we can't go for this with this many zealots being unchecked. Like, usually you go for this if you manage to trade off like 2 or 3 of the zealots initially, and you feel a bit safer going for it. But he's now going to get a full scout off and force more and more Zerglings from Saxry, so not only does he not have an opportunity to produce any additional Hydras to make this work, but he's got a pretty good round to work with. Bisu, though, does make his way behind the natural minerals and splits off a Zealot to the third as well. This is problematic for Saxry. I just don't agree with this Hydra Den play from him. It would have been much more sense just to stay Speedlings into 3-base Spire, I think, and now he's going to be paying the price. He can't even afford to make Hydras right now because it would show his hand to Bisu that he was going for this play in the first place. So he's kind of like shot himself in the foot here, I feel. And without trading off any of these zealots initially, you can't go for a Hydra Den this early on, I don't think. And he's definitely paying the price for that, Sam.
Yeah, he's falling leagues behind Bisu, and it's a clear path to victory from Bisu from this position. Just get enough cannons to make yourself safe and follow up with a good, strong 2-base timing. Either Saxry goes all in and dies to the cannons, or he tries to stabilize afterwards, and everything is so slow that he won't have enough of mass to deal with Bisu's follow-up push. And so we're going to see Saxry build enough Hydras here. What looks like a bit of an attempt to gun down the wall. We'll see if he's able to get that and then fall back on a macro play afterwards. Look at this, Bisu adding 2 gateways in the natural, so going up to 3 gates really fast, and he probably has a Citadel finishing up in the main. Gonna be getting that Zealot speed online as quickly as possible so he can start to punish Saxry, really get on his case, get across the map, and pressure him as he's trying to drone up.
Yeah, he already had it actually saying, so he's probably got that leg enhancements on the way already. Probably looking at 30-40 seconds where it comes online. He's supply blocking Saxry as well with those Corsairs just to add insult to injury. He's probably going to get the gateway in this wall in, but not much else. Saxry will make a full transition into 5 hatchery play here. But Bisu wasn't really forced to make that many cannons back at home, so this fake Hydra bust isn't really paying dividends, unfortunately. And there's going to be another massive swelling of the speed lots starting to come Saxry's way right before he can drone up to his full saturation. He's probably operating on a bare minimum amount of drones at each of his locations right now, and that's going to be a little bit worrisome for him going forward.
You can see here Saxry doesn't have an evolution chamber that I saw here. Just adding on his hatcheries now. Some of them are finishing up. There's going to be an upgrade advantage for Bisu. Lots of zealots coming across. Even a couple of overlords are meandering out on the map. That's not a good move for Saxry. He's definitely going to end up losing some of those. Hiding Hydras down at 6. I guess he's going to bring these up to try and get rid of the Corsairs. Not going to be able to get that though. And so Bisu is going to start to split zealots off, start to hit these different bases, and this is all just forcing Saxry into a worse position. He has to keep making Hydras, and there's going to be Storm back at home. He's not going to hit a pre-storm bust timing here. The Zealots will be able to hold things back long enough, and we've got a DT as well. Oh, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to hit this Hydra bust timing just before that Templar or that Storm comes online, and that's why he was sending the 2 Overlords across the map. Bit of panic here from Bisu as he throws down stuff, but I mean, he's gonna buy time with this High Templar or with this Dark Templar, and then there's 3 High Templar behind this, and a lot of cannons finishing up. Saxry needs to break through like yesterday, and he's gonna be able to buy a bunch of time here.
So he's basically all in. He's got like less than 30 drones back at home. He's starting to hit at a critical timing. There's 2 or 3 storms available for Bisu. He needs to bust his cannons right now. Target's one of those Templars down before Storm was actually able to be laid, though. There's a chance here for Saxry to still break through. Bisu's in a world of panic. Probes are coming off the line, but probably not enough probes to hold this. So far, good target firing. Beautiful Storm does finally come out onto those packs of Hydra. I think there might just barely be enough here for Bisu to hold the line. It's unfortunate because he did manage to snipe one of those High Templars more or less for free at the start point of that, and he's going to be fully all in, just trying to rally Hydras across the map to hope that Bisu is being a little bit lax in his follow-up defense. But Corsairs see everything. He knows there's going to be additional Hydras popping and coming across the map to try and put the nail in the coffin, but I don't think there's going to be a funeral for Bisu today. He's saying it seems like he's just barely got the critical amount of defense needed to thwart this.
It does indeed. Having just those Templars with the Zealots here is going to be enough, but the 4 cannons adds on that extra DPS for a desperate attempt. Not a bad one, I'll say. Saxry didn't have a lot of options in this game state, and he made the most of what was given to him by just trying to get in there and get the kill right before Storm comes online. Saxry now getting an evolution chamber and starting to get his upgrades going, but he's 2 upgrades behind Bisu right now, and starting to push out with these Zealots. He's once again going to be forced to make Hydras. He cannot get drones out, enough of them in time here. He's sitting on around, like you said, 30 drones, and he's just getting this 6th hatch out, but he's not going to be able to continue to produce off of all of that with a bare minimum number of drones. You got to have at least like 40, 45 to get that really rolling.
Yeah, he's basically sitting on the kind of drones you need when you're going all in trying to kill the Protoss, and he's going to have a hard time finding the opportunities to drone. He's now starting to squeeze out a few drones here and there. You can see him starting to be above normal saturation, so now he's at like 35, 40 drones and starting to, you know, stabilize his economy a little bit more to nominal levels. But as it stands, he's still on the back foot. Like, he's only just now setting up the economy he already should have, which means he hasn't been able to produce enough Hydras to maybe stop this attack coming from Bisu. It's one of the hardest things about playing Zerg is choosing when to drone and when to make units. And regardless of what he decided to do here, I don't think it would have been leading to necessarily a game-winning condition. He needs to micro out of his mind and dodge these storms to have any chance at winning. Here's a big blanketed storm on top of those Hydras, trying to send him into an eternal nap, but not quite. Oh, that's a beautiful storm, though. I think that might just barely be enough now for Bisu to go the distance and really start to cripple the amount of Hydras that have been able to be produced. He's making an Archon on the high ground while splitting off some Zealots to the north. These Zealots will come back to join their brethren on this high ground in just a few moments and start to overwhelm Saxory here.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still getting more and more Hydras popping out, whereas Bisu is continuing to probe up. He's continuing to just pump out more and more Zealots, High Templar, and keep this pressure on. Now on top of the hatcheries, this is kind of the death blow here, similar to a Terran player. Once you're on top of their production line, almost impossible for the units popping out to deal with all of this muscle that's sitting here right on top of that production. So that's all going to go down. The Spire finishes up, but GG is called. Saxory taps out, and Bisu is on a tear.
Yeah, Bisu's just really carrying his squad right now, doing all the heavy lifting, stalking YC, waiting in the wings. Will they even get a chance to play? Say, and at this rate, it looks like Bisu might go on an all-kill rampage. It's going to be either Royal or Sark coming up next.
Sark, your favorite player, Shun. Aren't you happy? Aren't you excited? Bisu versus Sark here?
I'm so happy,
Game number 3?
Sam. So happy, Sam. I mean, can't we just send out a computer? I mean, probably be about the same odds.
We're a little down on Sark. We've been if you guys have been watching SCSL, then you would know the reasons why Sark going down in disgrace in that tournament. And it's not the first time he's thrown games. No, no, no. This man is a serial thrower of games. He's got quite the arm when it comes to that.
There's not enough nutritional value for him to be described as a serial anything, okay?
Well, he's got... I'm saying he has a pattern of behavior.
I know,
and that pattern.
Doing a play on words.
That pattern
but he has,
is well established at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of gave him a little bit of leniency for a while, but yeah, he's just rubbed me the wrong way with his play. And now he's going to have to do some pretty exceptional upsets for him to even come back to being a tier 3 player for me right now. Like, I even rate Scan more highly than Sark currently.
Well, he's been chosen here for some sort of reason. We're not sure what it is, but maybe he's been impressing some of his other Terran brethren recently. He's going to be taking a CC gasless fast expand here, bunker expand for Sark, and lucky for him, Bisu hasn't been able to scout just yet. There will be a probe zealot combo making its way over towards this natural now, but maybe he's got 2-3 Marines to actually work with, bully this away, and it's going to come down to this early micro. Oh, getting some damage here initially with the probe, pretty good.
Okay.
Getting 2
Doesn't
hits
quite
already.
kill the probe though. Yeah, if he could somehow kill that probe, that'd be a pretty big deal. The spawn locations are actually working for him because he can take his third pretty easily here on this map. Oh, he does get the probes. That's a good start to this game from Sark. And if he does get away with this bunker expand, it's going to be a pretty big deal. Maybe that's why he was picked on this map, because it's a pretty good map for bunker expand. And he does like to go for this style very often in Terran versus Protoss. Is so far microing pretty good, but it has pulled a lot of SCVs on the line. If he loses that SCV on that bunker, it's going to be a good pull off from that SCV to keep that alive for the time being. Bisu still with the pressure on. This bunker's not yet finished, and the attack does continue. He's trying to make the most of microing on 2 fronts right now and really disrupting the APM ability of Sark to shut this down. Now a run by into the main base with those 2 Zealots. Now the bunker can be finished. There's still a pretty healthy chunk of HP on those 2 Zealots, so he has to respect that and pull a lot of his forces back to defend. And Bisu going for a 1-base robo to follow this up so he can shuttle in more units into the main base, as well as doing some crazy Reaver harass potential in the future. He's really styling on Sark right now. Even Bisu agrees with me, this guy doesn't deserve to be here with this kind of play.
well, none of the Marines have gone down so far, at least. He's managed to keep everything alive. Looks like he's going to get rid of the Zealots now. Some pretty good micro from him, keeping all that alive, but run by Dragoon Zealot into the main base. He's going to have to block really, really well with the SCVs here, and he's not done so, so all the Marines suddenly go down. Gets around there on that Dragoon. Not enough to trap it in a prison of SCVs, but does some damage to it. I mean, I think Sock's just going to die, man. He's out of stuff. He's got nothing here.
He needs to get some kind of surround on this Dragoon so he can go back to normal mining, but he's not even able to make the most of the fact that he's gone from this fast CC play. Most of the SCVs have been pulled off the line to kind of, you know, destroy his economic prowess. So it doesn't really matter that he's gotten away with this fast CC play. He does get an SCV scout into the main base and sees that this is a one-base tech play from Bisu. So that's a big scout. Does manage to trap the Dragoon as well, so that's really good from Sark. If he can just shut down this play right now and get some units operational to defend against the shuttle, maybe he has a hope, but in just a few moments the shuttle is going to be inside his main base with a Reaver and potentially causing all kinds of problems for Sark. He has got an engineering bay that's finishing up in a few moments here, but he has to keep surrounding these Dragoons with SCVs to fight this back.
Where's the Vulture? How come we haven't seen a Vulture?
He won't make a Vulture. He has to make a tank. He knows that this is a tech play, so he has to make a tank to defend against the Reaver that's coming in like 20 seconds or so.
It's just a really late first unit here out of the factory. Finally going to have something out to start to deal with this. Dragoon looks like it's going to go down. Turrets are coming up barely in time. That SCV scout making a world of difference here, actually. He might have a chance if he can hold this off.
Yeah, he's going to have like one tank finished and another one about to pop in about 10-ish seconds time. So with good micro, Bisu can still make this happen, but there is a tiny window for maybe Sark to defend this. This turret's going to buy him some valuable seconds. Bisu has to shoot 2 Scarabs to finish this off. Repair does make that 3, so he is buying enough time for the second tank to pop out of the factory to have a stronger chance of defending against this, using the Marines as anti-air to target the shuttle, putting that on the clock and forcing an unlift, but the tank does bug out on the SCV's mining gas, so he does clear that up with a shuttle phase disruption combination. Now trying to get on top of the shuttle Reaver combo outside of the periphery of his base and using both of the anti-air Marines. Now a rotation into the national expansion, killing a few more SCVs. So now Sark's really up against it. He has to pop either this Reaver or shuttle in the next 20 seconds, or this damage is going to keep ramping up.
Yeah, this is some very good control from Bisu. Gonna get rid of that turret as well. That is gonna end up going down here. Gonna lose some SCVs trying to keep that alive, keeping that repaired. It's so necessary to have that turret alive, but he just can't keep it up. And the one tank really struggling to deal with this. Another turret coming up, and it comes up just in the nick of time. Oh, he does get it. All right. Getting rid of that shuttle. And the Reaver is something. Yeah, it's keeping him alive in this game, albeit just barely. Already there's a nexus here behind this for Bisu, and he's definitely got a probe advantage as well.
I mean, Sark is held together by sticky tape and chewing gum right now, but he is technically still together and in this game. But he's going to have to, invest in some sheet metal and some rivets to really solidify himself and prevent him just being collapsed due to the flimsy nature of how much damage he's taken this early game. There will be a speed shuttle and 2 Reavers hitting him again in short order. Bisu behind all that harass was able to get his own nexus up and start to saturate his own probes. They're both pretty even on economy, but there is a slight tech lead here for Bisu, so Sark still has to dig deep and control his units to the best of his ability and position his tanks as appropriately as possible with the spacing of turrets to deny too much follow-up damage. He can land these Reavers in the main base and then elevate the 2 Dragoons into the main base as well and hit this from the south threshold. Like, he doesn't necessarily need to only go in with the 2 Reavers here. He could get the 2 Dragoons into play as well.
For now, just going to leverage the Reavers into the main, can land on top of this tank and kill it pretty easily. I'm going to go for the Marines here. No, goes for the tank at the bottom side. Now for the tank at the top. No, goes for that tank first. 2 tanks already have been taken out. Quite a bit of damage was dealt to those Reavers, though, so Gonna back off for now. Oh, Vulture run by here in the natural, trying to make something happen. Sock grasping at straws right now. So far this game, it's been all about survival. Finally putting some damage back onto Bisu, thinking more than just about surviving this next phase.
Yeah. You have to play StarCraft like that. You can't just hope for the best and defend. You have to try and make the stars align for the future game states and think to yourself, even though I have a low win percent and low win condition right now, I have to play as if I can win the game, so the next phase is a little bit easier. Maybe that Vulture could have gotten a lot more damage than that, so I don't necessarily hate him doing it at all. Here comes Bisu, though, 2 speed shuttles. There is a turret to slow this down, but he will be able to dive bomb on top of these turrets with some Zealots supporting on the ground now, soaking up the shots of the tanks and allowing more freedom for the Reavers to pop out and do what they do best. And that could be a massive connection on the SCV train. He gets half of those SCVs and some more on the exit as well. So many SCVs have fallen in this game already. There's like almost 20 kills on these 2 Reavers. It's absolute insanity. And the SCVs are coming back. Why are the SCVs coming back? You've not yet secured your main base, Sark. This is a little bit preemptive. And he's now realized he needs to pull those SCVs back yet again, taxing his own task switching with poor decisions and now struggling to hold his line. There's a beautiful pylon wall on the south of the 3rd base as well, preventing that Vulture coming in and doing anything. And he will potentially get a kill on this armory and stop the upgrade from finishing.
This is more of a bop than Saxory in that last game. Really, Bisu got the better of him just from the very beginning, but here he's kind of playing with his food, it feels like, just going in again and again and again with these Reavers, and Sock is sitting at half his supply, just barely hanging on. Eventually we're just gonna have a gateway army of Bisu come up against this natural, and I just don't think Sock's going to have enough stuff here to deal with it at all. He's going to get completely bowled over here in a moment. It's been absolute chaos right from the very beginning, but Bisu has never felt like out of control at all. He's never seemed like Sock had any kind of leg up in this game, so Bisu just controlling things start to finish.
You can definitely feel the lack of respect here from Bisu. It's like the pros have agreed that Sock's slipping in the power scaling and not really playing to the ability that he should for being a pro gamer. Maybe not putting enough practice time, or maybe he's just lost his mojo. Just does get a few probe kills and force a little bit of lost mining time in the natural here, but it's really not going to amount to much. He's still 45 supply behind, and Bisu's ahead in the curve in both tech and army right now. Sock cannot take this 9 o'clock position as his 3rd for quite some time. He's finishing up a starport right now to stay teched out. He will eventually float a CC to 9 o'clock to take that, but it's going to be some time. He might even be thinking about making a Wraith. I hope he does make a Wraith or something to help slow down the freedom of these shuttles in the main base. He's got a lot of minefields set up to try and catch Bisu with his pants down and prevent this drop mat from going to being too successful, but it doesn't seem like it's done enough here, and Bisu will land yet again inside the main base of the Terran and snipe that armory. That's kind of insane. He's got the +1 finished up, but he won't be able to get +2 done anytime soon at this rate. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of a nightmare for Sock. He's hoping to get lucky with one of these mines maybe and shutting down some Reavers for free, but it's just not occurring. And if he can't get a 3rd base up, if he can't get that +2 weapons on the way, Bisu is going to just dwarf him in power scaling.
Well, at least he finished +1. That's something.
That's something.
Wasn't able to deny that +1 upgrade, and now he's got his science facility done. He just goes ahead and denies the 4th base, at least, from Bisu, killing that probe over at 12. So, again, some things are happening for Sock. It's just drops in the bucket, though, compared to all of the bad that's gone on here. Another drop on top of all this stuff. Zealots being leveraged here. Not a whole lot of Dragons, just the 4. But it's enough to start killing tanks, and as long as you just keep killing tanks, there's really no future here for Sock. Eventually, Bisu's going to get more and more bases online. There's no push potential, and he's going to, max out, be way ahead in supply, and Sock's gonna have a heck of a time pushing out of his base.
Yeah, this is good Protoss fundamentals here from Bisu, just never allowing the Terran to build up an army, especially critically those tanks, and it'll make it safer for Bisu to take this 12 o'clock as his fourth. If he hadn't have squashed the tank count of Sark, Sark could go for a push timing and easily stop this fourth base from going up and maybe even getting on top of the rally point of Bisu after the facts. But as it stands, there's just not going to be enough unit production, and Sark's playing catch up. He's got 3 armories. He's so tilted out of his mind right now. He's got maybe he's getting upgrades for battle cruisers or something. I don't know, but or maybe he's just not able to keep track of things right now. He's just in complete disarray. And the kind of build that Bisu opened up with is something you do, like a Korean would do against like an amateur foreigner player on the ladder, because they don't want to do their normal build orders and waste their time on an inferior opponent. So it definitely does seem like a lack of respect here from Bisu, and not really considering Sark a worthy contender of his normal play.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Maybe Sock can make him regret it in the future. I just don't think it's going to happen this game. I mean, trying some things, throwing out some vultures here to get a few probe kills is nice, but it's not going to change the facts. The facts are Bisu is growing out of control. We don't have that third base here, even at the 15-minute mark. No push, no third base from Sock.
Yeah.
Bisu has unlimited time to grow here, and he's going to have a maxed out army possibly before Sock even hits 120 supply.
Right, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, just now he's starting to edge forward, much like on Destination, utilizing the cliff of his main to help shuffle over some tanks to secure the lane to set up this third base eventually. He's got some tech online, he's got a science facility finished up with a vessel, but Bisu will just bowl over the Terran player now that he's starting to take his third base. He hasn't got enough critical mass of tanks. Here comes the Zealot bomb on top of those frontline tanks. Needs to drop 1 or 2 Zealots on top of the high ground as well. Some beautiful Sonic Storms as well, just adding insult to injury right now as Bisu starts to chomp through all that Terran metal, and Sark probably tilting his head, and we'll be GGing out in just a second. There's the GG, and really expertly done by Bisu. That was like watching a pro gamer play against a foreigner on the ladder and making them look silly.
Blasted. Absolutely blasted. Snow would be proud of that game.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably would have gone scouts, but you know, this is kind of comparable to that, just going one base Reaver and pulling his opponent apart with some early Zealots. Sock disgraced once again on our shows, Ben. Every time we see this guy, it seems like he falls down another peg.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's just crazy that Bisu can make someone like allegedly a pro gamer Sark look so silly with such an old school build. That's the kind of build they used to go for back on Python back in the days, guys. That's an extremely outdated way of playing Protoss and shouldn't usually work against the highest echelons of Terran players, but someone like Sark just not able to hang.
All right, set 4. Bisu versus Action. Now this should be an interesting matchup. We've been big fans of Action for a long time. He's a great Zerg player. He hasn't been really having the best showing as of late.
Right.
But he's always that guy who's right on the edge of greatness. There's a lot of those guys who are like not quite there, but they could be amazing if they just correct a couple things, if they really get everything down pat. Like, there's something missing. I, of course, don't know what it is, but you know, what's the difference between Action and someone like Hero or Soul Key? We're not really sure, but yeah, maybe it's that
consistency. Yeah, I mean, he is a very strong player. He's not able to perform at the best of his ability every game, unfortunately. And to his credit, he has some of the best Defiler control in the world, arguably the best Defiler control in the world, especially with his usage of Nidus canals on some slightly less than standard maps, but not really able able to always get to that stage of the game and utilize it. Looks like a very conservative opening from Bisu here, going for a Forge first, which will help him against the 9 pool of Action. Bit of a mind game, though. Action made drones instead of Zerglings here. So Bisu will just make a single cannon before Nexus to react to that, knowing that there's no real pressure coming.
Just going to retreat here with the Nexus on the way, baiting those Lings around and heading back in for some more information. Action going to be taking his third, but where will he take his third this time?
At 9.
Interesting. Going to take that 9 o'clock third. I've seen different pro players have different thoughts about this position. Some of them like to take it down at bottom center.
It's a long distance to do that, but
very
there are
long,
arguments for and against it, right?
Rush distance from the Protoss Natural is pretty darn close. I think that's the biggest negative here.
Yeah. As it stands, it seems like Action wants to prioritize his unit flow and being able to quickly respond with Zerglings to any perceived threats from the Protoss and rely on his early game defense to not really have to worry too much about the geometry of the map and expanding towards the Protoss player. If he does somehow slip in his trades in the early game, Bisu could just squash him like a bug, though, and just get on top of that 9 o'clock with a very fast Zealot timing. And going for a 973 like Action is right now is a great way of utilizing these closer spawns. So that will definitely help pay dividends taking this 9 o'clock base, because there'll be a much shorter rush distance for the Hydras to reinforce at the front. And definitely could maybe make something work here. And against the Forge first, 973 is way more potent, unlike that game with Saxery, where it was against Gateway first, and there's a high count of Zealots to put pressure onto the Zerg. Actually won't have to worry about such contentions here, and might be able to get away with this.
Maybe it's Hydra style when you go for this base, because getting Hydras between your natural and the third down at 6 o'clock is pretty rough. But if you go for Spire and you're defending with sunken colonies and Mutas flying back and forth, it's a lot easier. So maybe that's the thought process there. Of course, the 973, it's always better to have your hatchery a little closer. You get those quicker rallies. It's a game of seconds and milliseconds when it comes down to a bust or a failure.
Absolutely.
When it comes to breaking through here against the Protoss. And so even that little tiny bit of extra time walking from bottom center is going to possibly make that end up failing. So Action here, gonna start to make Hydras soon. He's done a good job of blocking out the scouting probe with bare minimum resources, just a few Lings here and there blocking that out. And so these Hydras are gonna come as quite the surprise to Bisu, who's adding an extra gateway in his natural instead of a cannon.
I mean, I'm surprised because Bisu sees no Ling speed from Action. This should be some alarm bells. Action usually does like to get Ling speed, especially if he's playing a Spire-based play here. So I would have thought that alarm bells would be ringing for Bisu sooner. Now he does see the Hydras with the Corsair, but it's a little bit of a slow reaction speed from Bisu. I mean, the cannons take such a long time to warp in, and you don't have to go in to pick off the cannons until they're close to actually finishing up. So you can think of them as like ticking clocks, and Action will wait until the very last second before actually pulling the trigger and pushing in here. Already a probe's coming off the line. At least he has a Corsair to probe drill out onto the map and make himself safe. Here comes the bust attempt, though. Breaking through the front lines already. Get some good connections on that first cannon. Now targeting the next one, warping in. This is already really good for Action, but so far Bisu's technically alive. There's not that many Hydras reinforcing right now. Action's actually droning behind this and wanting to transition, so he's trying to force an overreaction out of Bisu, as well as lost mining time while killing the wall, and we'll be turning this into a very strong macro game. I think Action's done it. I think he's done enough damage to Bisu and making it look like an authentic bust, to the point where he will now have a very strong point of transition. And even though he's picked off the wall on top of it, so even though Bisu's technically responded to hold the attack, he's done it in such a way which has really minimized his chances in the mid game.
Yeah, this is very solid from Action, making drones while going in for the bust, knowing that he was going to pull back here, just killing enough cannons so that he can kill the wall and prevent the +1. this transition is going to be very smooth, and Bisu's going to have a hard time. The number of cannons that he made behind this to make sure that he didn't die is slowing down his gateway count, and he's also having to add on that forge in the main. Looks like just a single forge to try and get that +1 attack rolling, but Action is going to be in a really good spot here. He's adding on his 6th hatchery already. He's got his Evo chamber. His +1 should be on the way. 2nd gas now coming online. That means he's got enough drones here, at least that 35 count, to really start pumping out Hydras. Get in, 1-2 groups. 24 Hydras here back at home, and a 2nd evolution chamber. That's very interesting. Gonna start putting sunken colonies out in the front. Are we gonna see a quick 4th base? No, a Spire in the front. Wait, what?
Wow, that is crazy from Action. He feels so safe in this game. He's got balls of steel right now, saying, I've never seen a Zerg be that aggressive with their Spire placement. And putting it that far out to create a little bit of a semi-sim city. He'd probably put a sunken colony down next to that if he needs to, but it's pretty risky for him to go for that. He's feeling very confident and cocky to go for that to begin with. We'll be going up to about 40-45 drones as well, knowing that there'll be a little bit of time before Bisu can squeeze out the gateway count necessary to actually get an attack timing going. And we'll also be taking a 4th base. I doubt he'll be saturating this 4th base right off the bat unless he feels like Bisu's too far behind the curve to really threaten him. He's most likely gonna surge up into a crazy amount of Hydras in just a moment now. Probably about 2.5 control groups of Hydras to squash the Zealot Temple and move out from Bisu, and then go back into drones yet again.
Yeah, you can take 3-4 drones out of each base and just saturate, for the most part, that mineral only and get a little bit of extra income. It extends the life in your main and natural as well. And I think I understand why he's built this Spire out in the front. He's trying to hide it. Hide it from the Bisu.
Oh yeah,
yeah, not let Bisu see that. You can see Bisu keeps darting into the main and then flying through the back of the natural and the 3rd base to check all the creep. But that creep in the front is pretty far out there, and it seems like Bisu hasn't quite checked that yet. With the 1 Corsair, he can't afford to risk it by flying over the rally point, and so he might not expect a sudden wave of mutas, and I think that's what we're about to see.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's got the 3rd gas on the way. He is going into Hive as well. We'll be making lurkers, but he might be doing a muta transition. Okay, now the Corsair definitely sees it now, but it depends on whether or not he wants to go for that. It seems like he's just going to be making lurkers and playing defensively, and won't necessarily be going for that muta play. He definitely doesn't seem like he's doing that at the moment. Has transferred some drones over to that 4th base. He realizes there's just no timing for Bisu to really do anything. So Bisu's just going to try and take his own 3rd base with his army and just sit back and try and power up. But he's playing catch up right now, whereas Action is surging ahead into that Hive play, into that Adrenal upgraded Zerglings, along with Plagues that will come online eventually, and that'd be very problematic for Bisu to contend with, especially with how fast these Evo chambers have been. He's going to be kind of ahead of Bisu in every metric.
Now it's possible for Action to start securing even more of this map. He could stretch out or a 5th base and just make lurkers. You can make so many lurkers here with all the gas that you're bringing in. Does need that 4th gas though to really get online with the Hive play. You're spending so much gas on upgrades, both for your defilers and lings, and you're getting that Adrenal online. All of that costs gas, so he actually needs that 4th gas to come up here sooner rather than later, but he's going to be spending most of his gas for now into lurkers to really keep himself defended up nicely and make sure that Bisu can't quite attack him just yet. Doesn't seem like Bisu's interested in that anyway. He's just getting these bases online and getting his gateway count finally up to that 8 count. really has been slowed down by this initial attack. I'm pretty impressed with action so far in this game.
Yeah, he's doing very solid gameplay, very fundamental stuff. I mean, Lurkerling is the main composition in this matchup. You just make Hydras initially to skirmish with the Protoss player, and then you only really need to make them to, you know, snipe observers, protect your overlords from Corsairs, and eventually to snipe Reavers as well. It's very important, but the majority of time, you're trying to dump most of your gas into either Lurkers or Defilers, maybe some Scourge to snipe observers as well, and then you're just spending your remaining minerals on just floods and floods of Zerglings, and eventually Plague comes online and makes those cracklings really start to come alive in a big way. The majority of the strength of the Protoss is with that high HP pool as well as natural armor on their units, so Plague completely circumnavigates that issue and tears them to shreds. We've got a massive Ling counter-attack that might be hitting the third base of Bisu. I hope he's got a High Templar up there or something, because now he could be potentially getting some of his army or the Nexus just sniped. It seems though Action thinking better of it and doesn't want to just throw away too many Lings for free. Instead, just keeping the pressure on Bisu and playing defensively while he powers up like an absolute madman. He's approaching maxed, as Zerg saying, at 13 minutes with a fifth base coming online. He is looking like the Swarm incarnate.
Finally, that fourth gas is going to come up here. With all the upgrades he's purchasing right now, his lurker count's not that high, but they're in good positions and sitting defensively, so he can hold on for now with all of these Lings to buffer. He will be getting this Defiler online. Nice snipe there on the High Templar. Could potentially run in now with all the Lings and kill off these cannons. Just a few zealots up there on high ground to potentially deny that. Not going to go for it. Drops coming online as well. Dude, this is going to get really sloppy for Bisu now.
Look at the SimCity of Bisu in his natural. Unless he preemptively has his army in position to deal with this drop, it's going to be so challenging to actually get the army back into the main to defend, and Zerglings can kill buildings pretty quickly, guys. This could really escalate out of control very quickly. He's going to maybe also play distraction at the mineral only of Bisu and hit the mineral only with some cracklings on the ground, force Bisu to react to that when the real attack is actually going to be coming into the main base, although this will help Bisu a little bit because he's going to start pulling back the army preemptively to deal with this mineral only, making it easier to come into the main later on. But for the time being, he might actually snipe this next and does get a kill on that. It's a big win, and now here comes the massive main doom drop into the main base, saying so many lurkerlings starting to ravage the Protoss infrastructure with Dark Swarm lurkers preventing too much of an advance. Bisu just going to go for a counter attack and say, if you've got this much hitting me in my main, you can't have shit at home. But the answer from Action is, I actually have just as much, if not more, back at home as I do attacking you right now.
Ooh, the plagues are so dirty. Almost every zealot gets hit there on the left-hand side, and these Dark Swarms are a wall of defense that cannot be busted through. Bisu taps out. What a clean game from Action. He is looking so good. Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, Bisu on a tear, and he just got slapped down.
Right, I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, Bisu just had to win that game and one more against Royal, and he would have had an all-kill against Dark Russian Royal, and Action just stopping him in his tracks. Sometimes you never quite know what you're going to get with Action. Depends on where his head's at, whether or not he's playing at his A game. And when he is playing at his A game, he seems like an absolute beast, and it looks like we're getting that slightly latter iteration of Action. Maybe he could go on a tear himself now and do a reverse upset. He's going to be up against Royal. If he can somehow stop Royal in his tracks, he's then only got Stalk and YC to face off against.
Okay, set 5. Here with Royal in top right, Action top left. This guy, he's looking to be in good form today. That's what I like to see. Action in good form is always some good entertainment. It's just not as often that we see him like this. Unfortunately, he does tend to fall by the wayside a little bit here and there.
Yeah, he's either like the 3rd best Zerg in the world or like the 6th best Zerg in the world, and not much in between. You know what I mean? Like, he's either one of those two things. And yeah, he just didn't really have a lot of mojo recently, but it seems like he's back in his ebb and flow. Now, granted, that's a very small sample data size to work with. Hopefully, he can make that data set a little bit larger now. Going up against Royal on Polestar, it's horizontal spawns, which does favor action. Getting quick access into this natural for some Mutalisk harass could help him put the pressure on early, and a 10 racks wall in from Royal, so he's also thinking about putting on a little bit of pressure to action, getting some Marines out early enough that action has to respect it, and maybe even lose some mining time in the natural with the naked Marine move out.
12 hatch from action. He will have the benefit of scouting with the Overlord immediately. Going to see the timing on that barracks, and won't need to send this drone out. He can send that drone back home as soon as he sees the location, immediately sending that back home. Wants to gain the value out of that drone. And he is going to drop that spawning pool now back at home. Action. When will he take this gas? Might want to optimize.
Looks like, yeah.
Gonna optimize here for minerals so he can get that earlier hatchery, but it all depends on how he holds this upcoming push and how much damage Royal can get done with that.
Right. I mean, I'm sure he feels pretty comfortable now knowing about the 10 racks ahead of time. It's a pretty big deal. Like, if you get blindsided by it, it can do a lot to you, but if you know it's coming, it's actually pretty challenging for the Terran to really make it work, unless you're just an absolute sausage bunkie as a Zerg player. It might happen to me sometimes. Like, I'll see it coming with my Overlord, but not register in my brain that it's finishing a few seconds earlier, and it catches me off guard sometimes. Happens to the best of us. But at the pro level, Action's not going to make such a silly mistake such as that. He understands exactly what could be coming out from Royal and will respond appropriately when necessary. You can see he's making the lair exactly at 302 to optimize for lava. Basically, lava spawns when lair finishes. So if you know the exact timing of when lava would be spawning, you can kind of get an extra lava for free, because just before the lair finishes, a lava will be popping out and then another one with the lair. So that kind of optimizes for more potential drones and Mutalisks later on.
He's going to have plenty of larva here with the 2.5 hatch, assuming that's what he's still going for. He doesn't have a lot of lings here. Hopefully he's got a few spawning out in a moment, because he hasn't really respected this 10 rack so far, only making 2 lings. And going in behind the mineral patches, oh boy, this is going to get a little bit dicey here for Action. This spot, oh man, I really haven't seen this on Polestar yet, but this is dirty.
This is very dirty, Sam. It does look like one of my games where I just don't respect the rack's timing and think I'm more safe than I actually am. And unfortunately, that bunker is going to finish, and he's denied a lot of mining timing. Is he going to have to make a sunken to deal with this? Like, surely he can't kill that with Zerglings, right?
No, I don't think you can get the kill there. Probably you can just run around and snipe the SCV. But there's nowhere to move the SCV, and it can't get inside the bunker because it's full. So maybe you can kill the SCV, and this can't hit the hatchery, so he can buy some time here and just build lings. The hatchery is not going down, so there's no timer on him here, so maybe he just builds enough lings to actually kill this. Okay, now he moves the SCV over to the right-hand side. Oh, that's so annoying. Royal gonna move that over there just to make it harder to kill that SCV. Pretty smart play by him. Now bringing in the lings from the other side. He will kill the SCV, and he can target this down now. The bunker will fall, but this is a lot of commitment from Action. He had to build so many lings here to get rid of this, and he hasn't been mining from this natural for way too long.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't necessarily a game over situation for Action, but it's really heavily limited the macro potential. He's probably at least like 200, 300, maybe even 400 minerals behind schedule right now. As you can see, he can barely even produce any Mutalisks, especially of how much he's invested into Zerglings. So, yeah, and without the wall in from Terran, there's not really any compensation that can be had with that Ling investment. He's going to go into Crazy Zerg as a follow-up play and hope that Royal plays defensively enough that he can eventually turn the tide the longer the game goes on. I don't necessarily mind that play from Action, actually. I think I would go for something very similar, knowing that there's not really any counter that can be occurred. I think that something like a fast Crazy Zerg play might be just the ticket that he needs to take it to the distance against Royal.
Yeah, it's not bad, and hiding it with the third hatchery there. Royal scanned the main and didn't see the creep or the evolution chamber, so he has no idea about that evolution chamber right now. He's expecting a bunch of mutalisks to arrive, and indeed some mutalisks will be made here for Action, but of course he's investing into this very quick upgrade, and so doesn't really have the money to make that many mutas at the moment. Something's going to be clicking in the brain here for Royal soon as he sees such a small trickle of mutas coming forward. You know, he did do a lot of damage. He knows that Action's been slowed down a lot. Does he realize that there's some other sort of tech going on here behind this, though? He does do a scan, and there it is. He does reveal it. Okay, so definitely Star Sense was tingling there for Royal, and he confirms his suspicion, finding that evolution chamber.
Yeah, an amateur player might just suspect that he did enough damage that's why the mutas are so slow, but Royal definitely a higher caliber of player and figures out, hang on a minute, you should have them a little bit quicker than this still. So it manages to figure that out, gets a critical scan to know the transition. Four turrets finished up in the natural here, but Action actually doing a pretty good job with those 7 mutalisks and does kill about 5 or so SCVs, which is kind of like the bare minimum to transition into a normal game, but he's probably looking for slightly more than that, given his current deficit. He's got now a flock of 11 mutas, so he wants to come in here again and maybe get a total of about 8 to 10 SCVs to feel a bit more comfortable with this game state. Does get a couple more, but can't stay for too much longer. It does fly over the bio just for a second, then loses 1 muta for free. And he's going to try and now start to trade with this bio and set up for a mutaling pincer and try and clean it up and utilize those lings from the right-hand side while the mutas dive in. But Royal's scouting around with his bioforce does identify that, and now he's going to be running back to the safety of his rally point a little bit more, making it harder for Action to clean up those forces.
Diving in here at the natural, looking for a couple of kills and getting himself back in here. Starts with limiting this economy for Roy. He's gotten quite a few, actually.
Yeah,
managing to snipe even underneath this floating factory. Sometimes the floating factory can be useful to gain some of that vision, but it can also be used against you by bouncing glaives on top of those SCVs. And so I think this has gone a little bit Action favored, getting quite a few kills. He's added on a lot of mutas behind this too. Really big commitment to the mutas so they can buy time for this hive to come online and these upgrades to start to kick in.
Yeah, he's playing like 2-base Crazy Zerg style, which does rely on less economy and more unit production. You're trying to squash the Terran move outs with mutaling stabs over and over again. He's going to try and go for it now. There's good medic blocking on the front though, trying to make this not be an eventuality, but beautiful connections with those lings and mutas. Royal's in a little bit of trouble, has to retreat to the safety of the bunker, and the trigger is pulled, does do a stim and put back into the bunker, but he does pop the bunker now, getting it on top of this turret production, but there's only 2 turrets left. He's got 9 mutas hitting these turrets. He might be able to kill those very quickly with the help of the lings on the ground, and now suddenly the Terran's production zone is completely exposed, saying Action's playing out of his mind right now.
Wow, Action gets right in here and just kills all the turrets on top of the barracks, controlling this area, killing off more and more Marines. He can rally Lings here, and Lings' armor is going to come online pretty soon as well. Dude, this is such a tough spot for Royal. I don't think he's going to be able to stabilize here as more Lings come into the main. All these turrets are going to be gunned down here shortly, and this vessel pops out way too late to hang on. This is it, dude. What? Royal is going to go down like that? You've got to be kidding me.
That's crazy. He did so much damage to Action in the early game. Snipes the vessels with the mutalisks as well. Just an absolute stream of mutaling to seal the deal. Unbelievable from Action. I mean, he's making a champion tier player of Royal look a little bit silly despite having a huge lead in this game. Action's pretty all in. He has got a backup plan. Eventually, he could have gone into Crazy Zerg, but he decides not to. He decides to pull the trigger on going for a mutaling all-in play and just squashing Royal. absolute mind games from him. Gets the clapper from KCM. And I mean, this is just insanity. Action only has to win 2 more games to get the all-kill prize now. It's only stalking YSC, and they aren't the highest caliber of PvZ players either, saying.
Yeah, very good chance that he can take away that all-kill prize, guys. Action is playing out of his mind today. I did not expect this one bit, but never know what to expect when it comes to Action. Sometimes he just turns it on, and it really seems like he's got it locked in today. We're going to jump into our next game, guys. Stork or YSC? Who's it going to be? All right, YSC. Spawning over here in the top right. We got Action in bottom left. I think Action's getting this all kill, man. It's looking very good for him today.
I think so. I mean, Stork and YSC, they're just not that potent of Protoss versus Zerg players. So if Action is playing on form and doesn't get caught off guard by anything, my money would be on Action killing these 2 guys. I mean, this is kind of impressive from him. Taking out these players in such a fashion. He made Bisu, who was on a rampage, look silly. Slapped down Royal, who's a champion. And now he's got, you know, 2 slightly middle-of-the-road players to contend with. And it is going to be a gateway first out of YSC. Does indicate some degree of confidence, usually going for that play. But this is Radeon. It's a very long rush distance map, and he hasn't got that horizontal spawns to work with. This is cross spawns, so that's 38 seconds ramp to ramp by a worker. Due to how these ramps are positioned, you can see in the top right, the ramp pokes to the north of the map, and the ramp in the bottom left is pointing to the south of the map. So they're about as far apart as you can possibly get on any map. Like on Polestar, for example, the ramps in the top right would be, you know, not necessarily orientated in such a fashion to make it such a long rush distance.
Right, and another 12 hatchery from Action. If he just gets away with this, takes no damage, it's going to be tough for YSC. That's a very strong position for a macro Zerg such as Action. We'll be able to crank out a lot of drones and just control the map with lings while making whatever transition he deems necessary. I just want to comment on that last game, dude. Action looking like Soul Key when he dove into that natural and completely overwhelmed those Marines. I mean, if he can play at that level at home, maybe that's just the problem, right? Being on the stage in ASL and these other big tournaments, the gravitas of the moment possibly gets to him. But here in KCM, where he could just shine, Action pulling out some really good builds and pulling off some pretty impressive upsets as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that, you know, they play really good from the comfort of their own home, and can be quite challenging for them to suddenly disrupt that usual pattern of behavior by being in front of a crowd, the lights and a camera in your face. Definitely is a bit daunting, and that's not even including the gravitas of having the other player that you respect across from you as well. It can be very challenging for these players to play at an absolute 100% of their ability in those scenarios. So you do sometimes see them dominate online, but really struggle in those offline events. I hope eventually Action can find his mojo and perform at an ASL event and really show us his caliber of play. Oh, a mistake from YSC. Wasn't quite mining his gas. He actually sent those probes a little bit early to the geyser. You can click on return cargo, or gather, sorry, with G, and click on the gas while it's still building. As long as they get to the geyser after it's finished, they will mine automatically. But if you do that and it finishes up just a little bit ahead of schedule, they won't mine at all. And I think that's what just happened to YSC.
Well, that's interesting. I actually didn't know that you could hit G.
Yeah.
And that'll actually have the mine even after it finishes. Or even if it's not done while you end up doing the click. That's cool.
But it has to finish, obviously, before they arrive to the gas, so they will just stand there like that.
That makes sense. And he does correct that now, has a Stargate on the way. This pressure from the Zealots as well is helping YSC to narrow the possibilities of what Action could be going for at this point. unlikely that he's, for example, Hydra busting him, but indeed a Hydra Den is done. He's got vision over those. Oh, and Ling Speed is done as well. That's interesting. Hydras are popping out. He's going to see it immediately over here at the third base. So great information here for YC. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a full-on bust, but definitely there's going to be Hydra pressure.
Yeah, I mean, this probably will be a fake Hydra bust. It's just going to be a matter of how much of a fake Hydra bust is this going to be. Oh, he actually kills a Hydra. That's pretty good for YC. We'll eventually clean up that Zealot, but that's a small win for him. He is making drones behind this, as you can see, so this is mostly a mind game from Action. He's trying to make YSC overcommit into defense and defenders, so that he's then not going to have as potent of a mid-game setup. Each cannon is essentially a gateway he's not going to be able to produce for some time, which is a pretty big deal when you think about it. So Action will put on a lot of pressure initially. He needs to get up here and defend this Overlord if he can. Hydra's going to target that Corsair. Zealot's trying to prevent that from occurring, but we'll be able to save that. Overlord tries to go in for a run by, notices the second cannon finished up, so we'll think better of it. And hopefully YSC can snip this out and not make any additional forces, because this is certainly not going to be a 3-hatch Hydra bust from Action. He could still go for a pre-storm timing and now start to flood Hydras and then punish, but with how many drones he's making, with those 2 drones transferring to the third, it's unlikely to be even a 4-hatch Hydra bust now. He probably will make a 5th hatchery.
I wonder if YSC was able to cancel any of those cannons. He probably could get away with just 3 right now, considering the rush distance and how little commitment was done by Action. Yeah, he gets away with 3. There it is. Perfect. Gets those gateways online as soon as possible. He wants to stop Action in his tracks as he continues to try and drone up here and get into the next stage of the game. Possibly a 4th base going to be coming soon, and Action once again going to Hive. That's what I'd like to see.
Ooh, he does catch maybe just one of those Hydras. Still pretty good, saving that gateway, keeping that production online. It's a pretty big win for Protoss. It's almost like, you know, he didn't have to make that many cannons as well. If he does somehow save this gateway, it's like he never has to even replace that gateway in the main base. So it's like he made less cannons or something. But in this case, it looks like Action is still threatening that. And Speed won't be quite finished on these Zealots for a little bit longer. Seems like YSC is very adamant on not allowing Action to come in here and snipe off that gateway. He's really prioritizing that production currently, and has done a good job of using these slow Zealots to bully back these Hydras from getting a critical snipe on that production capability. So he has got 5 gateways at least right now to churn out enough Zealots to maybe go on an offensive against Action soon, who will be in full production mode himself, pumping out more or less nothing but Hydras while sitting on 30-35 drones.
Those are some really good micro trades from Action, actually. In that natural, he was gunning down those Zealots one by one, target firing there to get as many kills as he could until the Zealot speed was coming online. Then he retreats, keeps almost all the Hydras alive, just trading out the Lings there at the last moment that they're really going to be useful, and now falls back to a nice defensive setup with about 2 groups of Hydras. He can get back into droning again here soon, but he's got 3 gases. Are we going to see a Mutalisk flood here suddenly pop out of Action and him look to start sniping High Templars? I think that might be a possibility.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, saying I think he might be going for that. I mean, we haven't seen any Lurker eggs morphing yet. We'll have to see if that does start to transpire. There's the first few Mutalisks coming out, and it does seem like he's producing more than just 5, so definitely think you're right about that. Probably going all the way up to 10, maybe even 11 Mutalisks to snipe High Templars and put some pressure on YSC. YSC is making 2 cannons in the main base and 1 in his natural to be safe, which is exactly what he needs to do in this situation, not just to die and get bowled over by an Ogre Zerg gamer move from Action here. It looks like we could be seeing a fourth base attempt from Action as well, taking this maybe natural third at the top left quadrant of the map. Might be an idea.
Few Dragoons out here at the front. That's a lot of mutas, though, to work with. So YSC spotting that, knows that he needs a little bit more in terms of anti-air. Might want to make an Archon, maybe even a Dark Archon to start to deal with this. It's kind of strange, I think, that Action wants to stay on this layer-based play. I wonder if he's going to, after the fourth base, start to transition into Hive. We're on such a big map here on Radeon. There's a lot of room to maneuver, and more mutas coming. Oh my goodness, dude!
Wow.
So many mutas are being made here. It's kind of nuts. This is like more than 12. This may be like 16, 18 mutas.
Well, he was initially poking in with just 5 mutas to maybe bait out a Maelstrom if there was a Dark Archon, but now I think he realizes there's no Dark Archon, so he's really double dipping into his mutalist count right now, and wants to now go in with 10, maybe snipe some of these probes and High Templars if he can help it. He's diving into the rally point location. He's trying to track down some of these High Templars, cannot find them. He could also think about picking off that gateway later on if he wants to. He almost found one of the High Templars. He now swings back in for it. Good preemptive storm from YSC, blanketing those mutalists, taking them down to about 75% HP or so. That's not necessarily the worst case scenario for YSC for the time being. Needs to quickly get a third base online, as well as start to pressure Action. He can't just let Action sit back and macro right now. Action is usually one of the best in the business once he does get into Hive play, and so you kind of do want to go for a timing here while taking a third base behind it, and YSC is exactly doing that. Has managed to screen out the Protoss player, sorry, the Zerg player from getting up here to the third base, but now he comes in for the High Templar snipes, gets 2 of them before any preemptive storms. Really slow reaction time from YSC. Needs good preemptive storms coming out on top of those mutas to prevent that from occurring in the first place, and he gets on top of the production line to maybe pick up another one of these additional High Templars as well. Action just getting so much value.
Yeah, I think I disagree with the push out there. Trying to get a timing going against Action, who's sitting here on Battle Zerg, is not gone into a Hive. He's not getting those, triple evolution chamber. He's just making Hydras and gearing up with mutas. If he kills the last, 1 Templar, 2 Templar that are out, mutas can completely overwhelm this. There it goes. The last Templar is dead. Hydra, pure Hydra versus this Zealot Dragoon is, I think, going to go Action's way. He's actually making lurkers, surprisingly. Quite a few lurkers are being made at the rally point right now, and Action not pushing out very far. He's actually going to go around this and make his way over towards that rally. Okay, here's the lurkers and Hydras. I'm surprised that Action didn't want to come out of this choke before taking the fight, but he's going to take the fight now over at this choke while doing a counterattack to the third base. Let's see how this goes.
This is a great counterattack from Action, but I do think there's a timing from YSC to punish this. If he was a little bit quicker against this lurker timing, he would have had even better trades. As it stands, though, Action going to be darting back and setting up a wider arc of kill box to fight against these Dragoons. YSC having some trouble to micro against this, has to pull back as a result, not getting any additional splash damage down to reinforce this. Action's just outplaying YSC in this game. Here comes them around as Zealots to help support on the ground, to help these Dragoons do what they do best and just rain down phase disruption shots onto that Zerg force. There's a couple of High Templars to join this force as well. Action only has a couple of lurkers to defend against this. If these High Templars do get down here unsniped and lay down 2 critical blankets of storms, as well as having a 3rd and 4th storm to follow up soon with their energy ticking away, eventually maybe there's a timing here for YSC to make this work, but it looks like there's just barely enough forces of Action to prevent that from coming in, and another flank from behind with the Hydras as well, making this a very cost-inefficient trade for YSC, and there's just not enough splash damage. Even killing that High Templar before it can storm, Action's just playing on a different level today.
He absolutely is, and it looks like he is going to be taking down YSC here. There's not that many Hydras left over, but just straight fighting against all of these Dragoons, they're going to trade very, very well. One more storm comes through, but it's not the greatest one. Pretty easily dodged there by Action, who's going to run forward and try to kill every single last Templar here. The Dragoons are going to be taken down. The Templar are going to be taken down. the 4th base was killed for Action, but he's not too worried about that at all. It's kind of a bait base there as he was doing all the damage, killing off all the Templar, and now that counterattack that's killed the 3rd has kind of sealed the deal here. Action eclipsing his opponent in supply and just making pure Hydra. I wouldn't even be surprised to see another Mutalisk round made here to snipe a few more Templar, but there it is. GG is called. Action makes a round of Lurkers, and then YSC leaves this game. Only one opponent left here for Action. Stork, the final player standing in Action's way of getting an all-kill. One of the first all-kills. I think have we ever seen an all-kill from Action before? I'll have to go back through the years here and see.
Yeah, he's come close a few times. I know that much, but whether or not he's actually secured one or not, I'm not fully aware of. I know players like Hero, Queen, Solky have definitely had all kills before. I'm really not sure about Action though. I think he's come really close a number of times and like never quite gone the distance. So he might be making some KCM history here today if he can somehow take out Stork in this final game, saying. But it was really funny timing because I was literally just about to say I wouldn't be surprised if YSC just taps out right now of how bad the game has gone. He actually did. Kind of funny. But it is going to be just Stork as the final boss remaining for the defense of Aya here tonight. Can he hold the line? He's got Action to squash and then Queen waiting in the wings as well. Going to be a tall order for our Dino Toss.
Here we go. Final game of the night, potentially, with Stork on the chopping block. Action is got the Executioner's mask on today. Just crushing through this lineup so far, and is on the cusp of getting that all-kill prize. We are on Eclipse with Stork over here in the top right. You see the 1-2 shut down Action today. His PVZ leaves something to be desired, but maybe he can play us a really good game and find a way to beat out Action on this map.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much hope of stopping this Executioner from doing his job. I think your best bet is to take him to some Korean bar and give him a lot of soju and maybe make him take a few more swings of that axe to actually decapitate his opponents and make it look a little bit more messy and make them suffer through the process a little bit more than usual. But as it stands, I don't really see these guys getting the better of him. Put a quick 9 pull here from Action. Just going to be taking that gas to squeeze out an extra drone early on. Stork has yet to throw down anything in the way of Forge or Gateway, so he's going to throw down a Forge now to be safe against this. And Action could just be mind gaming. This might just be drones. It doesn't have to be a committal into Zerglings, but might be forcing a reaction out of Stork to respect that. And he's not going to be making anything out of this lava until the Overlord pops anyway, so he can wait for the spawning pool to finish and then make all of it drones, maybe one pair of Lings, and try and mind game Stork as a result. It is probably going to be drones rather than Zerglings here, but it could be Gateway first out of Stork, so he has to respect that. So it might be 2 pairs of Lings, if not 6.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to pop out. He has to assume that it's probably a Forge opener because the probe arrived so early. Like, you don't send that probe that quickly with the gateway opener, so he only made the 2 Lings here, and that actually means that the pylon won't die that quickly. He ends up he ends up canceling it there after the 3rd goes down, so Stork at least forces the base over to that 3rd location, getting the maximum delay out of that pylon. Pretty good play from him. Action, though, you're right, builds mostly drones here, just in a bit of a mind game with that 9 pool.
Yeah, and he killed the probe with the drone at the natural as well. So there's no scouting potential from Stork until this probe circumnavigates these first 2 Lings. Looks like the Lings are trying to prevent that from coming in, but he should get into the main base with this probe and realize that this isn't going to be some sort of crazy Ling bust attempt here from Action. Seeing exactly how many drones have been produced is a big tell, like seeing that drone just pop now makes him feel all the safer in this game, getting away with just a single cannon going forward and not needing to probe block his wall in is a big deal for Protoss players. If you don't have the scout, that's what makes PvZ so hard, when you've got incomplete information and have to hedge your bets, and suddenly your mid-game timings are delayed because of all the I's that were dotted and T's were crossed that weren't necessarily necessary to do in the first place. He does kill that probe pretty early, but does still see the lair. So all things considered, this is okay for Stork. He's got pretty good information to work with and shouldn't be too blindsided in this game.
No, it's fine though. Action, he could just go into a normal macro game from here. You know, even with the scout, it kind of takes away his options of suddenly throwing down a Hydroden or something like that. You know, going for a bust, but I think he's going to be fine with that, comfortable to just go for a regular macro game against Stork. One Zealot making its way over to that third base, and only 2 Lings there for the time being. Okay, another 2 Lings hiding in the back, and I can just start to get this engagement going. Good target fire from Stork, and we'll pull back here, look for a bit of damage on one of these Zealots. Ooh, really good control with those 2 drones, bugging that out a little bit, and now he's going to kill this Zealot, even pulling back the 1 injured Ling. Man. Dude, action's really on another level today.
I'm getting chills, honestly. Oh, Stork not paying attention to this Zealot as well. He's in trouble now, losing these 2 Zealots more or less for free. I think he killed a single Zergling with those 2 Zealots. So before I said this was okay for Stork, now this is not okay for Stork. This is an absolute nightmare of epic proportions for him to have to navigate. He will have this Corsair popping out momentarily to get some valuable scouting information on seeing what's what as an afterthought here, but losing 2 Zealots without much to show for it, you're in a lot of trouble as Protoss, especially with the Forge opening. He doesn't have a lot of Zealots to do any kind of move out for a long time now, so he's going to be just sit back, relegated to trying to power up on 2 bases, and gives a lot more oxygen to Action to kind of do whatever he wants now, and we'll have a very potent macro game to work with as a result.
Let's see it. Action. I want to see a Hive play today. I want to see a Hive against Stork here. He's so far just getting out a few Scourge to go ahead and deal with this Corsair. There is a potential that if he kills this, he could switch it to an Ogre Zerg play, but looks like he won't catch it. Maybe with the intercepting Scourge, gonna try and get this connection. Stork, will he see it in time? No. Very well played. Excellent job by Action, catching that on the return flight. Now he's opened up a world of possibilities when it comes to airplay.
Oh yeah, losing one Corsair is a really big deal. He's even trying to maybe get another one as it comes out of the Stargate. Luckily, the timing crisp enough for Stork to avoid that transpiring. Does get some scouting information with that pair of Scourge. There's a Zealot hit squad moving out, but he's utilized the Scourge to identify that and keep track of it. You can see these Scourge just tailing these Zealots to make sure they're committed to this force so he can respond appropriately. He's got 6 hatcheries worth of production. He's going to make a safety sunken, but he sees the Zealots turn around and even has some Mutalisks popping out. It's just a question of whether or not does he make only 5 Mutalisks to clean up and stop this Zealot harassment, or does he commit yet again into a more Ogre Zerg centric style, going all the way up to like 10 or so Mutalisks, as well as Scourge to screen the Corsairs in the skies. Killing a Corsair that early on does kind of open up a world of possibilities for him here. He could definitely commit into a triple gas Ogre Zerg, or just kind of like, you know, make only 5 Mutalisks to clean up and threaten the Ogre Zerg, but really be transferring into a really strong macro game. So far, it seems like he could be doing either of those things. He's getting a second Sunken Colony online, which makes me think he might be going for a 10 Mutalisk Ogre Zerg style. You definitely do want to consider making more and more Sunkens. The heavier you do go into Mutalisk play, so you can afford to go out onto the map more aggressively with this Mutalisk force and be safe back at home. So it does look like it might be at least a fake Ogre Zerg going forward.
The double evolution chamber is a bit of a question mark, though. Maybe he's getting that as a bit of a backup plan here in case the Scourge end up getting completely annihilated and this Ogre Zerg play doesn't end up working. We'll have good upgrades at the very least. Triple sunken at each base is quite the commitment, man. He's really getting prepared for this attack coming in, and we'll be able to drone up while getting more and more mutas and Scourge online.
He's really respecting the Zealot Archon potential. He knows that this is a big threat, and being able to target fire down that Archon with the Sunkens is such a big deal. Can he get on top of these Corsairs with the Scourge? Some beautiful connections. Only 5 Corsairs are remaining. More Scourge are popping out as well. Get some good chase micro glaive shots onto those Corsairs. There's now 6 Corsairs total, but here come the rest of the block of Scourge, finding connections on those Corsairs. Now only 4 remaining. Can he find any more damage? They're so low on their HP. Does find another connection. Only now 3 Corsairs left remaining with 1 on red HP, and this isn't really a full Ogre Zerg commitment from Action. He's not made that crazy amount of Mutalisks initially. He's now starting to add more on after finding good connections with those Scourge, and he's wiping out the entire fleet of the Protoss player, and a beautiful wall in as well. With the 3rd sunken in the natural, he can just morph those lava into eggs, and that creates a full tight seal, preventing any of those Zealots getting surface area and getting an attack going. This is absolutely masterclass caliber of play from Action here today. What a real treat.
Behind this, going into that hive play, you'll love to see it. Oh, the one hatchery at the periphery of the base is a bit of a problem here. He can kill that for sure. Nothing that Action can really do about it. He's trying to out micro this Archon at the periphery, try to get a couple hits on that for free. Now some Hydras will pop out, and so he will be able to... Oh my goodness, that damage. Holy, so much damage with that Archon, actually. And now some Zealots will run by into the main base. This could get a little bit hectic for Action, although he does have enough mutas here to clean this up pretty darn quick in the main.
Yeah, as long as he drills the drones, he should be okay. Does look like the drilling is pretty good. Does kill about 3 or so drones with those Zealots, but not nearly enough to make up the deficit here. Certainly going to be in the red when he looks at his tax forms later on. Stork going to be still up against it. Needs to think about securing a 3rd base for himself in the next coming phase of the game. He's got some units down in the bottom right, actually. Has he got a probe down there? Is he thinking about taking... Okay, no, he's going to take the natural 3rd. I was a little bit confused by seeing the brown dots in the bottom right. It'll be a very risky base to take right now. It makes much more sense to take the natural 3rd, so definitely agree with this choice from Stork to take that base. Going up into... about 9-10 gateways worth of production. He's got 2 in the natural, 8 in the main, so definitely will have a strong production capability to maybe outmuscle Action later on. But Action's going to be transitioning into a very strong hive gameplay. With the 4th base coming online, I imagine the hive is now on the way. Maybe even Defiler Mound already on the way in just a few moments here. Going to be kind of crazy to see this kind of an intense Zerg versus Protoss. I think this is going to be one of the most intense games of the evening.
Getting this 4th base online is the next big step right now for Action, who's finished up his hive and is pumping away with these upgrades, getting some lings out finally. Continuing to make mutas, though, is a bit surprising. He has gotten rid of a lot of the Corsairs, and so not a lot to defend these High Templars aside from a couple of Archons potentially. Some Dragoons as well. Okay, that's a decent number of Corsairs. There's no Nidus down here at the bottom right just yet. There's an opportunity maybe for Stork to get in here and deny this base. Lurkers on the high ground, though, and no Observer is visible. Where is that Observer right now? He desperately needs an Observer to try and break this, and with all the mutas here and Scourge, I don't think you're going to be able to make that happen.
I think he only just now made an Observer, so it was kind of lacking behind in the curve due to how much gas investment there were into those Dragoons, Templars, and extra Corsairs being made. Had to cut somewhere, and it seems like the Observatory was delayed as a result of all of that. Some beautiful micro here from Action as well, killing 2 of those 3 Corsairs, and the 3rd one going down easily to a pair of Scourge. Now these Mutalisks can reign supreme with their air superiority, potentially pounce on top of those High Templars. He has got Dragoons to try and screen against that, but he's intercepting some of these Zealots that are undefended on the transit right now. So that's some good free damage to shave off the shields of those. Beautiful attack, though, coming from Stork. Can he break this? There's 3 Lurkers on the high ground, but with the Nidus Canal finishing up, he can get more units down here to defend this. Looks like a dive into the main base from Action, trying to cripple the economy of Stork before he can get off the ground, and hopefully he's got enough back at home to get through the Nidus Canal, as well as wrap around with Lings on the ground from the natural rally point to try and get on top of some of these Dragoons and punish him on the ground. So right now, Stork being pulled to and fro, an attempt from Action to get into the 3rd base, but the cannon set up there a little bit too hard to challenge. He probably will go for the natural instead now.
This natural attack is pretty scary. But a few cannons here, but not enough to actually hold everything back. He's going to have to retreat his entire army just to live for the time being. A lot of these probes going down here in the natural. Some Dragoons are popping out, but their anti-air against Muta is not that strong. Oh, so many probes going down here. Action really making this crazy, but he's allowed Stork to get onto 4 bases pretty quickly. We're on 4 base to 4 base. It's okay as you're transitioning into Hive to be on even bases for a little bit as the Zerg, but that 4th base came up very, very quickly. Stork gonna have a seriously good economy, even though he lost quite a few probes in that main and natural.
Yeah, this is just really a treat to watch today. Action is just showing us some absolute stellar gameplay and really picking apart his opponents methodically, not really feeling too pressured to do much of anything specific, just knowing exactly what to do, whatever comes his way. Just look at how fluidly he's dispatching of Stork, and Stork was ahead, like really ahead in supply by a large margin earlier on in this game, and he never has been able to get back in business with that. Action has just been able to eclipse him in every way, in both his skill in executing his attack vectors, as well as keeping up with the upgrades and production capabilities. And now the dive in on the 3rd base, going to be calling in an evacuation, all those probes, and now Stork is just going to be in a world of hurt. If he had 4 bases worth to production to work with, he could go the distance against Action here, but losing this natural 3rd does put him back on the back foot yet again, and he can't even main in his main base right now. Action just powering up on these 4 bases and making all these players today look a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, this is a super tough spot now. Action easily breaks that 3rd man. That was a ton of Lings plus the Muta stab. Able to just clear out that base. Hardly any effort. Stork looking to retake that now. He desperately needs more economy getting online here because Action is going to continue to grow. He's already at 150 supply, and he's going to start to kill his own buildings so he can get out of his base. A lot of Lurkers, a lot of Hydras and Lings with Defiler. We're going to have Plague online here soon, too. And there's no hint of transition for Snow into ultra late game. It's not like he's got Reavers on the way or anything like that. He's just sitting out here in the middle with a middling army and trying to keep these different bases alive by bouncing back and forth. He still hasn't taken the Nexus over at 12. Plus 2 armor, plus 1 attack on these Lings, dude. He is going to be slicing through these Protoss forces.
He's ahead in upgrades. Stork has 1-1 to 2-1 right now. This is crazy. Like, Action is ahead in every metric. Stork needs to have some kind of miracle trades going his way. And Defiler's already now out, going to be making that a very tough eventuality to make transpire. Stork is definitely in a lot of trouble. Action can just double expand, sit back and just plague to his heart's content. He's just going to be an absolute kebab man right now, sitting in the back in the kitchen, just producing absolutely delicious kebabs, dousing them with chili sauce to make them all the more tastier to consume. and even now a spreading of overlords. There could be lurkers inside these overlords to drop, but it also could just be to just to scout everything out on the map and make sure that there's nothing that catches him with his pants down. No shuttle with the High Templar in it to storm his drone lines or what have you. Like right now, there's so much vision for action on the map. It's kind of insane. Like he sees pretty much everything. He might as well have map hack at this point in time, and he's going to be exploding in a large way. He's currently maxed. Like this is insanity. Like as long as he just doesn't botch his unit control, he should easily seal the deal on Stork.
Action very solid at these big army movements as well. Definitely not going to be making any massive blunders. And that's really what Stork needs at this point. He needs Action to ape into him with a huge amount of lurkers so he can just storm everything to death. Look at this Sauron Zerg heading across the map. So many forces heading over here towards this top side, and he's going to cut off a lot of this army, getting in here before Stork is really set up and brought his army to bear. So Dark Swarm, Plagues are going to start to come out here as well on the rest of this army. Lings are catching some of these Archons. There's the Plague, softening everything up, and Action's going to start to rally all of his hatcheries up here to the front.
Yeah, he knows because he's maxed, he might as well go. He's going to try and drive a wedge between the natural and the third, keep the army pinned back so he can also start to hit this expansion in the bottom right. There's not going to be really anywhere to be safe here for Stork. He's going to start to descend upon this rally point location, lock out this army from defending, and now we can start to stream into the natural. Usually the later the game goes on, the natural expansion becomes the one major point of weakness for most Protoss players, unless they have like 10 cannons there from an earlier fake Hydra attempt. But look at this clinic from Action, picking off the High Templars with the Zerglings, just streaming across the map with absolutely insane macro. He's got so many units, he's struggling just to bring it all to bear, saying absolute insane stuff we're seeing here. It's almost like he's a victim of success and he can't physically muster the APM necessary to utilize all these units. Look at the mini map right now. Looks like a defense UMS where there's just an endless swarm heading your way, spelling your doom in a few moments.
It's the hidden comeback mechanic in Brood War, the difficulty of moving large armies. But there's no comeback in sight here for Stork. That is so much Zerg making its way into the natural and staying nearly maxed here. Action 70 supply ahead as he pushes in. Stork hitting him with a Wiffle Bat from behind as he plows up into this natural and main base. There it is. GG.
Wow.
Action gets the alt kill.
A shake of the head of disbelief and a very conservative clapper there from KCM, knowing just how impressive that performance was. A much-deserved all-kill prize for Action. Not too sure if he's gotten an all-kill in the past or not. I did try and search that up and couldn't quite confirm whether or not that was the case due to this being called an all-kill format. So the search results were very unhelpful in that regard. But I do think this maybe was Action's first all-kill in KCM. So if that is the case, big shout-out to him. That's impressive stuff. We've seen many all-kills from players like Sulky and Hero in the Zerg squad, but I don't think Action's been able to achieve it quite yet. He's always come close, I believe. He's always killed like 4 or 5 players in a row, and then right at the last hurdle, not been successful in securing it. So big shout out to him for finally securing that all-kill prize, and maybe a sign of things to come. Some of these guys tend to slack a little bit between ASL seasons and only really turn it up when ASL's around the corner, but there's a lot of hard workers out there like Action who grind out games all year round to increase their chances in both these online events and those most coveted offline events in the future. So I've got big hopes for him in this next ASL tournament coming up at the end of August.
All right, guys, wrapping up. We got a very tight race here this season of KCM in week 4. Everybody just 1 point away from each other. This is all to play for, guys. The top spot, that coveted finals placement, hasn't been decided yet here. Protoss increasing over time, and it seemed like they were not doing so well in the early stages of this season of KCM, but started to make a comeback, trailing
Yeah.
along behind the other two, but keeping in that second place spot by performing pretty well in these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're going to have to get a win in either week 5 or 6. They need to put 2 points on the board at least one of those times to be able to still contend for that final spot. If they just keep remaining on this trajectory and get only 1 point a week, they're not going to quite make the grade, unfortunately. It depends on how much they're hungry for it. If they can somehow pull it together and get some good squads developed for the weeks 5, 6, and 7, they definitely can still play for that final position. But if they don't win any of those weeks, there's no chance of them making it through to that finals round. We'll be seeing them in the semifinals against either the Zerg or the Terran squad. So I hope in one of these weeks coming up, they can find that much needed win and put 2 points on the board to jump up in the rankings.
Yeah, bring back Best, guys. That's who I want to see right now. I think pretty much everybody on the planet wants to see, or everybody who's interested in Brood War on this planet wants to see Best
Snow
play.
and Best.
Snow, of course, always a crowd favorite. But that's it for this week, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this. We've done it live on SCTVEN over here on Soup Live. It was a bit of a struggle at the beginning, but we put it all together. I am knackered now, Shun. I've been doing so much Brood War casting lately. I am just tired right out, so I'm going to have to tap out.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We'll be seeing you again on Monday, 7 p.m. KST, over at superlive.com/SCTVEN. We'll be doing SCSL on Mondays and Thursdays, and then KCM on Fridays, over on that channel at 7 p.m. KST. All the time, very consistently. So come check us out. We appreciate you guys in the chat right now showing us some love and being very dedicated viewers. We're lovely to see even more of you guys show up to that. But regardless, we just hope you've enjoyed the cast and the games here today. We'll be seeing you guys again very, very soon. Thank you very much.